football folk is doing. Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stone.
Am I going to get sued?
We got legal on this?
I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live here on YouTube. Week 8, Monday morning. Time to review all the games, Sam.
Let's go.
You were in a much better mood than you were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sorry. Shouldn't have brought that up.
No.
All right, well, let's go. We had a crazy week. What an insane week of football. I feel like we say that a lot, and then I say, hey, we say that a lot, but this really was week 8. A crazy game, crazy week of football.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. I was going to start with Jets-Giants, but we're not. We're not going to do that yet.
Oh.
You got to ease into Jets-Giants.
Okay.
All right, we always start in the East, so let's start. Miami 31, New England Patriots 17. Miami moves to 6-2 on the season, and the Patriots fall to 2-6. Miami gearing up to head to Germany to take on the Kansas City Chiefs next week, with all of the division leaders in the AFC now sitting at 6-2, including the Miami Dolphins.
All of them at 6-2, huh?
Yes.
All right.
What'd you think of this game? This is when you talk.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's all right. I can talk about it a little bit. So Tua finishes 30 of 45, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Patriots got up early, got the scoring started with a Kendrick Bourne 24-yard touchdown from Mac Jones. Remember, New England was coming off their best game of the season, taking it to the Bills at home. It was like, hey, are they going to be competitive here? But Miami was just too much, man. Same thing. Tyreek Hill, uncoverable in spots, runs through the defense for a 42-yarder.
Same thing as last week. He ran through a bracket coverage
and
just invalidated it by being too fast.
It was kind of, I don't know if it was true bracket. I think they were playing quarters. There was no threat to that side. The safety needs to help, though.
Yeah.
But, J.C. Jackson got torched a couple times here for New England. But, yeah, Tyreek Hill continues to just be incredible. And, again, New England hung tough for a team that only has 2 wins. But Miami took care of business at home. They're now averaging, I know they had the 70-point game there. They're averaging 43.5 points a game at home in Miami. And they have a home game in Germany next week.
Home game in Germany. Even at the start of this game, it required them sort of dipping into the bag a little bit to try and keep things going. I mean, they went for it on 4th and 1 early in the game. What looked like an RPO type of play, picked up an easy first down. They had a bad interception from Tua in there as well. Otherwise, it could have been even worse. But for a while, the Patriots were hanging with them. We're keeping it pretty close. We're tied, right? Kyle Duggar seemed like he was having a great game. There must be some negatives in there as well because he made a bunch of really positive plays, and it's not being reflected in an awesome grade right now. But he had a really nice play on the blitz. He had a crazy hit at the goal line to stop a touchdown. Like a Durham Smythe, I think it was, with the ball, like a big tight end heading towards the goal line. You're like, oh, this is easy. And Duggar just nails him with a hit that stopped him dead and crumpled him at the goal line without getting in. And, of course, Jalen Ramsey coming back.
Jalen Ramsey does come back, and that was one of the pivotal points in the game. Miami's up 14-7 just before the half, and Mac Jones kind of floats one up, little switch route, whatever you want to call it. What? I used to say route all the time. And that changed in recent years. And Jalen just kind of floated up there. Jalen Ramsey jumps it, and so he picks it off. So New England's going in to try to tie it before the half, or at least get within 4.
Right.
Interception by Jalen Ramsey. He brings it back, puts Miami into position for a field goal just before the half to go up 17-7. But yeah, Ramsey looked pretty good in his return, and again, just in time for a showdown with the Chiefs next week.
Really nice instincts on that play by Jalen Ramsey. I think it looks worse than it maybe was by Mac Jones. Jalen Ramsey is the corner in cover 3. He's reading him, essentially going with his guy. Only Ramsey reads what Mac Jones is doing, peels off his guy, and comes back to the underneath throw and picks it off easily. It wasn't good by Mac Jones, but I think it was less egregious than it looked. Jalen Ramsey like his instincts, his ability to read the play in zone is as good as any corner in the NFL, which is why, rewind to when Miami signed him, like we were really excited about what he could do in this defense. Early returns, and by that I mean, one game.
One game, yeah.
Are good.
Yeah, him with Vic Fangio in this defense, could be a huge hit for Miami right now. Huge, uplift. Still just trying to wake up here, Sam.
How's it going?
It's average. I got a little coffee. We'll be good to go. One other thing to highlight here. So in the fourth quarter, New England does get within 7. 13-play, 81-yard drive. They're hanging tough, but I thought Miami put together a big boy drive after that. They kept converting. New England gets within 7, but Miami comes back with a 5+ minute drive of their own, converted a couple key first downs or key third downs, and then the final touchdown. It's 3rd and 1, and Miami, goes into their bag, like you were saying, little trickeration. And I mean, 3rd and 1, you have to, overplay the run. Miami was already in field goal range. If they kick a field goal, the game's over pretty much. And so New England sells out for the run, and Jalen Waddle is just wide open. I mean, nobody even looked at him in the secondary. Complete busted coverage for a 31-yard touchdown to seal the deal for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was another one of those. It looked like that 4th and 1 play earlier in the game. It was that sort of RPO fake, and then in behind, as you say, all of the Patriots defenders have gone towards the run. And that's actually possibly where Kyle Duggar's not great grade is coming from, is that play, in addition to whatever other negatives are in his game.
All right, last thing to highlight. Miami had a revolving door on the offensive line. Once again, they held up well. But they've, we already know Teron Armstead has been out at left tackle, but they had Liam Eichenberg starting at center. He's usually playing guard. I mean, they're moving people around. Big time shuffling by Miami. And, you've highlighted that as a huge story this season for the Dolphins, that they've been able to be as prolific as they are offensively, despite those offensive line struggles. So credit Mike McDaniel, Tua, and those actual offensive linemen, because, they held up well against the Patriots.
And it got worse in this game. Robert Hunt went down, went to the medical tent. Yeah, how many of the 5 guys they have starting right now are like intended starters?
Not many. 1,
2. It's a group that wasn't amazing on paper heading into the season. It's gotten worse, but as you said, it's holding up fine. It's not being problematic. I mean, even the loss of Robert Hunt, sure, there's 1 or 2 guys that aren't playing amazingly, but this group was absolutely not a problem in the game. In part because of, plays like those RPOs.
All right, man. So, like I said, every team in the AFC that leads, Dolphins, Ravens, Jaguars, and Chiefs, all sitting at 6-2, and the Dolphins head to Germany to take on the Chiefs this week. So set your clock. Get ready. We're switching the clocks here in America next week, giving you an extra hour of sleep for a 9:30 Eastern time. 9:30 start for Dolphins Chiefs next week. For New England falling to 2-6, and again, trying to figure out what this season actually means for Bill Belichick, the Patriots, and where they go moving forward. We'll have more on that throughout the week. But as a parent, you've had to learn so many new skills to provide for your family: how to do copious amounts of laundry, meal plan for even the pickiest eater, and now how to protect your family's financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life provides an easy one-stop shop for your family's financial needs, offering high-quality term life insurance policies plus other financial solutions in one easy online hub. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. MEET fabric.com/PFFNFL. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, man, let's go Jets-Giants.
Okay.
Jets win in overtime, 13-10. They move to 4-3. Giants fall to 2-6. The Giants looked like they had this one in hand. There was, for a 13-10 game, a lot of fascinating storylines in this one.
Or 13-10 game.
There was a point in so Tyrod Taylor starts the game, another rib injury. We say another because that's what happened back in 2019,
Yes,
20?
though very
20.
important to highlight the differences in these two injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in 2020, he got stabbed before the game.
yeah, by his own doctor.
Right, by his own doctor. In this one, it was just, football injury.
Yeah, large man fell on him. and
Yes.
hurt his ribs.
So Tyrod was out. He's already the backup. Tommy DeVito comes in. And at one point in the game, he led the comeback. Giants take the lead under Tommy DeVito's watch, despite Tommy not completing a pass. There was a point where he was 0 for 4 passing in this game, and the Giants took the lead during that time period because Tommy ran one in himself.
Giants finished the game with -9 passing yards.
Yes.
That's amazing.
They should have won with -8. They were
Right.
sitting there at -8 for about two quarters.
They arguably should have won with -9.
That's true.
It still required a Zach Wilson game-winning drive, and probably with no seconds left.
It did. So -8 passing yards for quite a while. They ran Saquon Barkley 36 times for $128. Dexter Lawrence, who we highlighted quite a bit on the preview show, we have to highlight what he did in this actual game, destroying the poor Jets and their revolving door of centers. But the Jets turned into the story, man. It looked like they were done, down 10-7. Zach Wilson takes a horrible sack on 4th down, just does not throw the ball up at all, and he takes the sack. The Giants have a couple minutes to run out the clock, and their first run, Saquon Barkley cuts back, picks up 6, but it's not the 6 that he picked up. He could have had a first down. Do you think he could have had a first down? He had a hole and he goes down.
Yeah, maybe.
He could have had at least a couple more yards. The Giants were unable to get the first down. They have to punt it back to the Jets, and that's when the Jets get back into field goal range to tie it up and get to overtime. And just a crazy game all around.
Yeah,
Jets
I mean,
and Giants.
so Dexter Lawrence was ridiculous. This might be his best game ever. It might be the best game a defensive tackle has had in a long time. He was absolutely unstoppable. He's going to have 15 pressures in a single game. Again, remember, for a guy who primarily plays nose tackle, that's not supposed to happen. Kayvon Thibodeau had a big game as well. He didn't have as much pressure as Dexter Lawrence, but every time he won, it was an important play. He seemed to finish every play that he had pressure with a sack. He got an early one. It was a strip sack, right, around Mekhi Becton. It seemed like that last sort of drive or two by Zach Wilson, he was just under constant pressure by Thibodeau. Those two guys in particular for the Giants were just absolutely destroying the offensive line for the Jets, which, similar to Miami, wasn't great on paper heading into the year and has been banged up and is deep into the bench at this point.
For the Jets.
Yes.
Yeah. Poor Connor McGovern. I don't know what McGovern's injury was, but Dexter Lawrence injured him with a bull rush. He just absolutely collapsed him. The impressive thing was everything that you had talked about, or we both talked about, but you really highlighted, which was him playing nose tackle. And usually when you're rushing against a center, there's a lot of guard help, and you just don't put up pass rushing numbers like that. I thought Dexter Lawrence's playoff game last year against Minnesota was one of the better games I've ever seen, where you talk about when Aaron Donald takes over a game, it's you pressure against the guard. That's tough. That's tough to deal with. Pressure over the center is almost impossible to deal with. It is literally the pocket. You can't step up. You can't avoid it. And that's what Dexter Lawrence was doing over and over and over again. So I know that the Giants lost, but had they won, had they pulled it off 10-7, we'd be saying Dexter Lawrence, this game was ridiculous. It was ridiculous regardless of the outcome, but just wanted to highlight, I don't think I've ever seen dominance like that. Now look, I know the Jets were way deep into their depth chart when it was 3 different centers playing and the whole deal. But I've never seen domination like that from the nose tackle position like Dexter Lawrence did yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Vikings game was his previous high benchmark, and I think he exceeded it in this game, albeit with, you can argue because the competition wasn't as good in terms of starting players going up against him. Therefore, it's not necessarily better, but like that's the level we're talking about here. He took over this game, and it felt, if you were watching it, like every single play was just Dexter Lawrence ruining it. And it's not like the Giants had -9 passing yards. The Jets had some passing yards, but it's not like their passing game was, cooking or anything. I mean, this was a 13-10 game, and most of the production at the end came in like desperation situations where like one element of the Wink Martindale defense, it's not exactly comfortable in sort of prevent situations, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't really know what to do in those kind of, hey, just don't give up a really big play in the middle of the field. That's all you got to do. Just that. And the Wink defense is not great at that. So they give up exactly several of those plays. In fact, in the middle of the defense, right in the final, the drive to tie it and the drive to win it. And then, of course, Breece Hall ends up like making one of the biggest plays of the game on the offensive side of things. So, Zach Wilson and the Jets, like kudos to Zach Wilson for making some plays right at the death when it didn't look like they had any shot, right? Like the game's gone, you're down. Zach Wilson has to lead an improbable comeback with only seconds on the clock. You're like, game's already done. So he came up big with a couple of big plays right at the end. And he did play better than we are. Like whatever you think Zach Wilson's baseline is, he's probably exceeded it in the last couple of games. But it's probably also important to stop short of saying he's been playing well. he's been playing better, but we're still a way away from good.
All right, let's highlight the end of this from the Jets' perspective. You've got 24 seconds left. They're down 10-7 at the end of regulation, and Zach Wilson hits Garrett Wilson for 29 yards. And then the play that puts them into field goal range to tie it up, a 28-yarder to Allen Lazard. I don't know if you saw Boomer Esiason. So they have no timeouts left. Lazard goes down right around the 15. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw Boomer Esiason questioning the officials here because the center for the Jets set the ball.
Right.
Now, the umpire did come in.
He ran in
and
to touch it. Yeah.
I think that's the rule.
Well, he
right?
has
Not
to
that he has to set it. He just has to confirm. Like the center can't run up, put the ball down, and snap it whenever they want. As long as the umpire confirms it, he doesn't have to physically put the ball down. I don't think he just has to tap, confirm, touch it, and the Jets get the spike with 1 second left.
I mean, it was clear that whatever the rule is, he was attempting to technically fulfill it rather than actually fulfill it. Like they set the ball down. That's a mistake from them. You need to hand the ball to the official. So the official just runs in, touches the ball, and then hauls ass out of the way.
I'm not the best with the NFL rulebook, not like our guy Ben Stockwell, who's probably DMing us right now. Let's see. Yeah, he just tapped the ball, which counts. Ben has already sent us a tweet explaining. Thank you, Ben. That's why you're here.
From Football
I was
Zebras.
setting him up. From Football Zebras. He just tapped the ball, which counts as spotting the ball as long as it's within a yard of where it should be.
Yeah.
So, it's good work by everybody. I mean, it's just...
Well, it's good work by the official because, it's a mistake from the Jets to not hand the official the ball. That's the thing now, right? Remember, the thing used to be you Larry Fitzgerald it, right? You make the catch, you run up to the spot, and then either give it to your center or put it down and spot it yourself, and then get back in line. Now the thing is, no, the official has to touch it. So your thing has got to be sprinted to the official, give him the ball so that he can spot it as fast as humanly possible. They didn't do that. They spotted it themselves. Which
I think in this situation that was right.
No, because if the official wants to be an asshole about it, the official's going to pick it up, reset it himself, and you just lost the game, right? You need to give that guy the ball so that he can quickly as possible thing. So the official saves him by launching himself in there, tapping the ball, and diving out of the way.
But I think that's the protocol for the official is to tap it. That's why Football Zebras is saying that's all he needs to do.
I guarantee you, whenever they're reviewing this, they're telling that center, hand the ball to the official. Don't spot it yourself.
If he hands the ball to the official, the game's over.
He has to run it to the official. The official...
No, this was the right move.
No.
To go get set and have the official tap it, and then you go. No. And they spiked it. This is the right move by the Jets.
Not at all.
That's what saved the game. They end up kicking the game-tying field goal. They go to overtime, stop the Giants, of course. And then It was a downfield pass interference against Adoree Jackson that put the Jets into field goal range.
Classic underthrown defensive pass interference prayer.
Disgusting. On 3rd and 5 from midfield, Jets move to 4-3. Giants fall to 2-6. The battle of New York/New Jersey, and you're somewhat interested in seeing if Aaron Rodgers is actually going to come back this year.
I mean, I'm just thankful the Jets are keeping it alive as a possibility. Like, did you see the video of him? So last week there was
I don't want to respond to video until you tell me what the baseline is. When you tell me 6 weeks removed from surgery, a guy's like in a wheelchair or can barely walk, and I see Aaron Rodgers, moving around, throwing, I'm impressed. I don't know what's the baseline 6 weeks out of Achilles surgery.
Last week, people were getting all excited that Rodgers was throwing, right? That was the thing.
Who was getting excited?
Everybody.
Football
Everybody
bots
except you.
Or doctors?
Everybody except you was getting excited that Aaron Rodgers was
because they don't
throwing.
know the baseline?
And then this week, but last week, he was literally just standing there throwing the football. Like, he was basically not even putting weight on the leg. But he was throwing on a field, so it was exciting to everybody except Steve. This week, he was actually like dropping back. Now, he's not obviously putting like 100% force through it, but he's like, there's NFL footwork happening when he's throwing the ball. Even in just the space of a week, that's a pretty significant leap forward. And you've gone from, okay, he can stand still and throw a football, to he's like bouncing around on that Achilles at this point. I don't know what the baseline is either, but that seems quite impressive.
All right, let's just be impressed not knowing anything. Mm-hmm. That's like saying the football team scored 20 points today. I'm really impressed by that, not knowing that that's like below average. Who knows?
I mean, it's not, but okay.
It is.
The field goal to win it, by the way,
looked like it missed.
Just snuck in. And they
really rooting for a
slightly
tie.
bobbled the snap.
I root for ties because I root for ties because they're funny, and then against ties because I hate the standings. Hate looking at those standings.
I also hate those games going the distance in overtime. It's like,
more work.
I've seen enough of this. Get on with it.
No, I could watch Jets-Giants all day. Credit the Jets defense, obviously, too. But, yeah, Tommy DeVito, he's playing NFL QB. And
minus 9 yards, huh?
Maybe he's not ready. We'll say.
I mean, there's a lot of backups playing NFL QB yesterday.
There was. It was a wild week. All right, let's move on. Jacksonville Jaguars. They move to 6-2 because that's what first-place teams do in the AFC, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 20-10. We got a rain game. Can we get a rain game alert? We need some weather game alerts. Jags moved the ball quite a bit in this game. Felt like they had the ball for the majority of it. I don't know the exact time of possession. Don't always check that stat, Sam. But the Jags had the ball quite a bit. The Steelers' defense did keep them in it, though, forcing fumbles. Trevor Lawrence had a bad red zone interception. Steelers going bend but don't break, hanging tough. But Trevor Lawrence hits Travis Etienne with a 56-yard touchdown to go up 2 scores. That was too much for the Steelers to come back from. We got Kenny Pickett getting injured. We'll talk about that particular play. Mitchell Trubisky had to come in, tried to lead the comeback attempt, and it did not work. So Jags 20, Steelers 10.
Yeah, what on earth was that red zone interception by Trevor Lawrence?
I don't know.
It was so bad that Charles Davis was asking, was he trying to throw it away?
Was he trying to throw it away?
Like, it was into
it
triple
just had
coverage.
No arm.
Yeah, it was into triple coverage, like clear, obvious triple coverage in the end zone. And he's like, his initial reaction was he trying to throw that ball away? And then when he saw the replay, he's like, no, I don't think, I think he just, I don't know. I don't think he just tried to get it out of bounds and didn't have the arm for it. I think for whatever reason, he lofted it into triple coverage, and it was punished by what should happen when you do that. Bizarrely terrible interception. Deontay Johnson, what a day for him. So completely hoses his quarterback early with drop passes. Then there's some kind of weird miscommunication / he got cut off, which should have resulted in a pick 6 from Kenny Pickett, only the DB drops it, just stone-handed drop. And then after the game, Deontay Johnson comes out and basically says the officials were corrupt and wanted Jacksonville to win, so presumably has cost himself like 5 figures worth of fines for saying that. Just bad day at the office for Deontay Johnson.
I'm always curious what why the officials want certain teams to win. Big market,
I mean, this was a terrible game for the officials.
Oh, I'm not saying it was good. I'm just, do you think, like, from on high, it's like, hey, make sure big media Jaguars win. Make sure the Jags get to
the explanation is clearly incompetence rather than corruption. But this is the type of game that drives people insane because not just it was bad, but it was inconsistent bad, and it tended to favor one team. Like,
I think the inconsistent part is the challenge.
Yes.
Right? Go ahead.
Even within like similar directly contrasting plays. Like, there is a bad roughing the passer call against Pittsburgh, as in they called them for roughing the passer on a play where it really shouldn't have been. And then there's a play where Kenny Pickett gets hurt in a literally like teaching tape textbook version of the thing you're not allowed to do anymore, which is drive the quarterback into the turf. Adam Gotsis gets hold of him after the ball's gone, but not like egregiously late, but literally like two arms around him, full wrap, drives him shoulder first into the turf. And then like right at the end, right, after the Pickett's shoulder has already made contact with the ground and presumably exploded, Gotsis like lift a hand up as if to be like, nope, didn't touch him. You're like, anyway, that one, not roughing the passer. The one before, way infinitely less bad, roughing the passer. Both of them went against Pittsburgh, and one of them cost them their quarterback.
The one that stood out to me later, we'll talk about later, was Rashawn Gary. Like, Rashawn Gary put a knee down to make sure that he didn't drop his weight on the quarterback, and they called that one roughing later. So that's the challenge, I think. That's the struggle with the NFL officiating. So at PFF, because we have a subjective, objective grading system, right? Subjective in that we come up with this rubric of this is a +1, this is what a 0.5 looks like. And objective as in, okay, we have those baselines that we are striving for. We do a lot of that, right? Like, so right now, all of our graders are going through the film and they're like, hey, this might be a +1, is this a 0.5, or is this a -0.5 versus 0? And because there's a lot of gray area type of plays, right? And so we debate them. And a lot of times we'll go back and say, okay, this guy's throwing a 15-yard deep out. It feels like a 1. It could be a 0.5. We're going to come to a final conclusion on that. But a lot of times, like, we'll go through the archives and say, what have we given similar plays in the past? And I think that's where fans struggle, is when they're watching multiple games or they're just watching a season of NFL football and they're doing that A/B analysis in their head. And they're saying, I just saw this roughing that was not called, and I just see this one that is called, and they're either the same or, like you said, more egregious, less egregious, and you're getting the opposite. That's where people struggle, and that's the challenge with anything that is super subjective, is you need to kind of like pull from the archive and say we want all similar plays to be called the same as much as possible. And when you see that inconsistency, that's where fans struggle with it. That's challenging.
Whatever about doing it, trying to keep game to game consistent, or even the same crew across different games consistent. I don't understand, A, how it happens, and B, how you fix it. That like within the same game, the same guy looking at the same picture comes to completely different conclusions. Like that's a problem with officiating. I think it's challenging to get like this crew calling it exactly the same way as that crew in a different game at the same time. I think it's probably also a challenge to get this crew calling it the same across different games. But how they can get it so wrong across the same game when they're looking at exactly the same picture, or even like slightly different pictures, and get it backwards, like the wrong way, that's an inexcusable flaw of officiating. Like, that is bad officiating, and something should happen, with that. Like, you see Jalen Warren seemed to get fined $50,000 for picking up a blitz. Well, in fact, J.J. Watt tweeted about it. Like, because
what did he do?
He literally picked up a blitz, and like when he went in to make the block, he like lowered his head to brace for the linebacker running at him full speed, and apparently that's a $50,000 fine now.
For lowering your head?
Yeah, and because it's a $50,000 fine because he's previously been fined for lowering his head when he was running up the sideline and a dude was coming in to like knock him out of bounds, and he like lowered his head that way to brace for contact. So in 2 different plays this season, he has lowered his head to essentially absorb contact and on each occasion has been fined a fortune for it. Like, that's madness. But the point is, guy who's not being paid a lot of money is getting fined big 5 figures for like playing football. And over here we've got the officials egregiously missing calls and nothing will happen. Maybe they'll be reassigned to a slightly less important game or whatever, but like there's no consequence for that. That's a problem in NFL officiating.
I mean, I don't know what even punishing officials does.
I mean, what does punishing players do? If we've decided this
makes
is a
them
thing,
get another fine later in the year, apparently.
Right. If we've decided this is a thing that impacts behavior, fining or punishing, then it should apply to officials as well as players.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. It's just it's a tough sport, man. I do like this year. It seems like they're talking to New York a lot more, and they've been more subtle about it.
Which is a bad thing, by the way, the subtlety. Like, that should be
I know
obvious and transparent.
you've been saying it should be fully transparent. I don't care. I want them to get it right. I don't care that they're I want them to talk to New York more. I want them to save coaches' challenges on when it's a terrible missed call, whatever it might be. A couple things to highlight in this game. Jags defense again plays extremely well. I know you got the rain game and everything, but it's been a trend this entire season that the Jags are making life difficult for opposing offenses. Their run defense, the stats have been great. The grades are going to be outstanding in this game. Devin Lloyd, second-year linebackers, playing really well. Folo Fatukasi in the run game, looking good. They were outstanding, the Jags. And their defense, again, they contest every pass. Like, they are making every completion just a challenge. Other than, George Pickens catches a slant, splits the defense. He got his, almost made another ridiculous, spectacular catch, just ended up landing out of bounds. I mean, it's every single week. That one didn't count, though. But, yeah, the Jags defense deserves a ton of credit.
Yep. No, it was fantastic. Darius Williams playing incredibly well at corner. I was interested that Kenny Pickett, two gloves Pickett, kept the gloves on in the rain.
Yeah.
What the hell I've never encountered a set of football gloves that are even viable in wet conditions.
That's been new over the last 10 years or so, I think, the rain glove games.
Yeah.
Now, most receivers will take them off.
That's the thing. You'll see it as soon
them.
as it gets wet. You will see receivers get rid of the gloves because it's actually worse than trying to catch the ball with just your bare hands.
Yeah.
But so I was curious, like Kenny Pickett with his, dinky little hands. Well, it's raining now. Are you going to stick with the two gloves thing? Because now you just two slippery hands trying to grip the ball, and yet he stays with it, and it didn't seem to affect him.
That's why I appreciate you, Sam. You ask the hard-hitting questions.
Difficult questions.
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to answer it.
Yeah.
But
the questions Pittsburgh media is afraid to ask. Right?
Why don't you get your guy Pony on that?
I'll talk to Pony.
Yeah.
We'll get that going.
Get the answers.
But the Pittsburgh's media, they're too busy writing hit pieces against PFF. They're not asking the right questions.
Right.
Kenny, what kind of gloves are you rocking
in the rain? How do his gloves function in the wet? So
Pickett has a rib injury and multiple ribs even.
Yeah, on account of being driven in the ground by a dude.
Yeah. And for 2 times in 3 weeks now, a starting quarterback gets injured on Sunday, has to come back on Thursday night. So we had Trevor Lawrence injure his knee a couple weeks ago. He did come back to play the Saints the following Thursday. Pittsburgh has to come back and play the Titans just this Thursday. So something to keep an eye on. We might get Will Levis and Mitchell Trubisky this Thursday night if Pickett can't go. Like I said, Jags move to 6-2, first place in the AFC South. I think the biggest lead for any division leader as well in the NFL. Let's go Philadelphia Eagles 38, Washington Commanders 31. Eagles move to 7-1. Commanders now 3-5 on the season. There's rumors of the Commanders maybe trading Montez Sweat. Chase Young, the rumors have been around Chase Young, but I think Montez Sweat more likely to potentially go at the deadline tomorrow. But Eagles moving to 7-1 after the Commanders gave them a good game again for the second time in a few weeks here. But look, the Eagles, every single week, you don't know how necessarily they're going to do it, but it was another A.J. Brown game where he was just unbelievable. One-handed catch for a touchdown, another contested catch for a touchdown. There was a busted coverage in there to give Devontae Smith a long touchdown. But the Eagles with an explosive passing attack in this one.
Yeah, no, the Eagles, I mean, A.J. Brown was ridiculous again. Like, he was spectacular, period. That's one of the best catches of the season, that one-hander in the end zone. It looks more impressive on the replay. Like, he makes it look so routine that the sort of initial TV view of it, it's like, oh, that's really impressive, but it's not, out of this world. And then you see it on replay, how he actually catches it. It's like, that is genuinely one of the best catches of the season and will remain one of the best catches of the season for the duration of the season. It's that impressive. I also wonder, after the first game, why would you allow Emmanuel Forbes to at any point cover A.J. Brown in the second game? Like, he was so abused in that game that it basically got him benched, and he's back playing some snaps in this game. And now, not many, they've learned that lesson. But, like, in the snaps where he has to go onto the field, if you allow him to cover A.J. Brown, that's negligent coaching. That's bad. Like, you are setting a player up to fail. Emmanuel Forbes may end up being a good NFL player, but, like, you have a dude who's maybe 180 pounds maximum, and he's going up against A.J. Brown, who is, 225 pounds. Like, he's outweighed by 45, 50 pounds, and A.J. Brown is cooking everybody else. Like, that's bad, negligent coaching. It really is. Like,
the second touchdown.
Whatever about the first game, right? Like, you don't know how it's going to go until you see how it goes. Having seen the first game, if you allow him to at any point be covering A.J. Brown, that's on you, not him.
So the second touchdown was pretty much a straight jump ball against Forbes, who was in good position.
Yeah.
At the time of the release, and had safety help.
Right.
And couldn't really tell if A.J. Brown interfered with him, but he just outmuscled him.
But that's the thing. Being in good position doesn't mean anything if you're outweighed by 50 pounds and the dude can just, swat you aside. Like, that's the point. And that, by the way, is what you should have learned the first game.
Yeah, the weight issue seemed to come up.
And it might not be against most receivers, but against, A.J. Brown, I've been using the DK Metcalf example every time those guys come into the NFL, right? At some point, at 170 pounds or whatever, you're going to have to cover DK Metcalf. How does that go? Well, A.J. Brown, it's the same concept, right? And in game one, you saw how it was going to go. I'm staggered that they actually put him in that position again in the second game.
Crazy to me that A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf were on the same college team.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson being on the same college team. That's actually, it's nuts in hindsight. Jalen Hurts ends up with 4 passing touchdowns, and it's another game where they've had games where they ran all over the opposition. This game, they didn't necessarily do that, but when they need big plays in the passing game, they have those weapons. I mean, it just, when you watch A.J. Brown and I would say Tyreek Hill, their impact is just immense. Like, I'm not saying they should win MVP or anything, but if quarterbacks weren't as valuable as they are, you would just think these guys are the game changers on this team. It takes a quarterback to throw the ball as well. Nothing against Tua or Jalen Hurts. But Tua and Jalen Hurts, their production has been through the roof since A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill joined their respective teams. And they keep going, right? A.J. Brown, as I've said before, there'll be some games where he just doesn't get a ton of targets. But it's not like the offense scores 9 points when that happens. It's because the Eagles have other weapons and, A.J. Brown can be a decoy. But man, he has been just unbelievable because he can win at the catch point the way he is, or after the catch, doesn't matter. And, Brown deserves a ton of credit for that. On the other side, this is the second game. Like, if you just watched Sam Howell against the Eagles, you'd be like, man, this is the dude. This is the guy. Finishes 39 of 52 for 397, 4 touchdowns, and only sacked once. It was a strip sack. He did fumble it. Had an intentional grounding in there as well. But it was like a different Sam Howell, again, against the Eagles, getting rid of the ball quickly, fastest time to throw of his entire career in this game. And I know the Commanders lost, and it's probably uncomfortable saying, yeah, we're going to drop back 52 times plus with this guy that keeps getting sacked. But this was a good Sam Howell game to keep them close.
But weirdly, I've said before, their best offense is that. It's when they literally do just put the ball in his hands and say, look, we're going to run, hurry up. We're going to run quick game. You're just going to drop back, read the thing, and fire. That is their best offense. And usually it's been in situations where they're like down and in a hole and they don't have another choice, and they've just kind of stumbled into that. But early in this game, like Sam Howell started off 7 for 7, I think, and it was all quick game stuff. Like it was screens, it was quick passes. They were just getting the ball out of his hands fast, and he's really good at that. Like his numbers in this game are going to end up being insane, and he was kind of screwed at times by his own receivers. Like it was the 4th and 8 play right at the end. Terry McLaurin. I mean, okay, it's a low pass. It's not the best ball location in the world, but it's one of those where at the point it hits Terry McLaurin's hands, he should catch it. Yes, Sam Howell made it more difficult than it should have been, but it's 4th and 8. The quarterback got it to the receiver, and the receiver is Terry McLaurin. At that point, you're expecting it to be a first down, and it wasn't. And that's, Washington is down 7 points, trying to keep a drive alive in midfield and potentially, get back to being a tie game. Like, Howell played well, and I think got a little bit unlucky.
Yeah, that was after they were down 2 scores. Eagles started to pull away, but Commanders came back. Howell hits. So that was what happened in the first game, right? Commanders were lurking. Eagles pull away. But in the first game, the Commanders tied it up, went to overtime. In this game, they couldn't get to overtime necessarily, but a great pass by Sam Howell to Jamison Crowder for a touchdown. And then, again, they just, fall short by a score. But this was, 2.48 average time to throw, by far the fastest of Sam Howell's career, after we've been blaming him for his record-setting sack pace, while also trying to explain, okay, when he doesn't get sacked, he's been a pretty good quarterback. You don't usually get both of those things. But this game, just showed what the Washington offense is capable of when he gets rid of the ball quickly, on time, and is more decisive. Even if, you mentioned, his ball location, it's not like that's perfect all the time or whatever, but just getting rid of the ball and giving guys chances to make plays and avoiding those 5 or 6. We're talking 5 or 6 negative plays that have shown up every week. Game changer for Washington. I don't know how much it matters. Like we said earlier, they're 3 and 5, maybe sellers at the deadline here. But in this week-to-week, is Sam Howell the future for Washington? This was, moving back in the right direction for him.
This is a weird... So... Like somebody tweeted during the game, like, what the hell happens to Philadelphia when they play Washington? Because Washington seems to have been unusually good at causing problems for the Eagles. And honestly, this was a game that kind of got away from them. Like, early in the game, an elite play by Cameron Curl to force a fumble. He, whilst tackling a guy, so he's bringing him to the ground with a good tackle, and on the way down, rips the ball out and causes a fumble. And Washington recovers there. So that's a full turnover essentially caused by Cameron Curl. They stopped the tush push and didn't just stop it, but forced a fumble on it. And then right at the death, Philadelphia finally broke out the wrinkle off the tush push, which I'd been waiting for a while.
We were calling for that.
Yeah, they didn't.
I was calling for that. I said I was calling for it. You said no, they don't need it.
Well, they don't need it, but
they did. They used the brotherly sweep.
The brotherly sweep?
Yes. That's what it was.
Okay.
They pulled out the brotherly sweep. They set up for brotherly shove.
Yeah.
And they ran the sweep to DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, one of the pushers, right cheek push. Right cheek push is his designation. Ends up getting the sort of sweep handoff instead and takes it in for a walk-in touchdown.
It's like tossing it to Right Shark from the Super Bowl halftime show. Eagles move to 7-1. They play the Cowboys. I've been waiting to set this up for a while. The Eagles' schedule.
Next week, by the way, the schedule is pretty tasty. Not just this game, but across the board. There's a lot of good games.
I might be, The Eagles' schedule coming up. Ready for this?
Yes.
Cowboys, then a bye. Then they're at the Chiefs, home against the Bills, home against the 49ers, and then at Dallas. 5 straight weeks. All against, I was going to say all against first-place teams, but the Niners are no longer in first place in the NFC West. But that's a run. And then at Seattle. Okay, sorry. I don't mean to diminish the first place Seattle Seahawks, but 5 out of their next 6 are against first-place teams, and the only one that's not a first-place team is the 49ers, who 3 weeks ago we thought was the best team in the NFL. So that's the stretch here for the 7-1 Eagles. And it's one of those where if you go 4-2, you're probably feeling pretty good, just on paper right now. and it's going to be a little stretch of fun football here.
Yeah, I mean, we've reached that interesting point of the season where, the first few weeks is sort of, it's like figuring out where teams are, like, just sort of almost adjusting the standings coming into the year. Like, everyone starts 0-0, right? And then 5 weeks in, some teams are exactly where we expected them to be, 5-1 or whatever, and other teams have dug themselves a hole and all that. So, like the Bengals handicapped themselves now heading into the important part of their schedule. Now it's like, right, you have very little margin for error now heading into this really important part of the schedule, but that doesn't mean you're not still one of the best teams in the NFL. So I think this is just this really interesting stretch of the season where it doesn't mean teams weren't who we thought they were, but what they've done so far has sort of changed the situation that they have just heading into these games.
Yeah, I mean, who are the pretenders? Who are the contenders? We're more than halfway, just about halfway through the NFL season. But DraftKings Sportsbook still pumping out unbeatable offers every single game. New customers can bet just $5 on anything to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October, which includes tonight, little Raiders at the Lions, Monday Night Football. You can get in on the football action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. So download the app now and use code PFF. That's how you do it. Code PFF. New customers can bet just $5 on anything to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code PFF. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Licensee partner, Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in aunt. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms and responsible gaming resources.
God bless the good people at Boot Hill Resort and Casino.
Yeah, man. I mean, got to do it.
We haven't had like a mid-season update on bets yet, but we have had somebody looking to cash out their bet for a loss rather than suffer the bigger loss.
One person cashed out.
Mm-hmm. Somebody who had put $200 worth of coffee on the line was willing to settle their bets now for just $100 lost of coffee.
We'll take it. We'll take the 100.
And we did, in fact. Yeah. It's not here yet, but it's on the way.
Because one of his bets was Kirk Cousins for MVP, I believe.
Yeah, and that was before the Achilles.
Before the injury. I was actually sitting there.
So it was a good time to cash out.
Let's talk Vikings 24, Packers 10. So again, when we say bets, that's our listeners before the season. Kind of put their money where their mouth is and say, we've got a take. We want you guys to we're going to challenge the PFF NFL podcast on this because we think this thing's going to happen. And one of those things was the Kirk Cousins MVP. And in last week he said, I'm going to cash out. I'll pay $100 instead of $200 worth of coffee,
right? Because
I don't think this is going to happen. And I'm sitting there in the middle of this Packers game being like, maybe it could still happen. Cousins was playing that well, and unfortunately, despite the win here for Minnesota, somber mood for the Vikings coming out of this game because Kirk Cousins, Achilles injury, he will be out for the season. He has been so durable since starting.
His first game, this will be the first game that he's missed to injury.
Yeah.
For a guy who's, 215 pounds, small.
Yes.
And small and has typically been behind a pretty bad offensive line.
Yes. He also, he plays tough, man. I think a lot of people have come around on Cousins as a quarterback over the last couple of years, slowly but surely. And then you have this season, Kevin O'Connell even said after the game, he's like, I'm just torn up because the guy's playing the best football of his career. He's in the middle of his best season.
Without Justin Jefferson for the last couple of weeks. He's
passed that test.
He's been playing better, without Justin Jefferson in the lineup. I don't think there's any cause or effect there. I think he's just stepped up and has been delivering the ball to Jordan Addison or KJ Osborne or TJ Hawkinson instead of Jefferson, and has been playing spectacularly the last couple of weeks and was playing spectacularly in this game, and then dude's Achilles just pops.
Yeah, so the Vikings moved to 4-4. They win 24-10 against the Packers. There's a couple things to unpack in this game. But going back to the whole Cousins thing, playing the best football of his career. I thought last year, maybe wasn't his best overall football, but it was the most he's ever won, right? And he's part of the reason why the Vikings are 4-4 now, and they're technically only a game and a half behind the Lions right now prior to this game. Like they're about to make a run.
Yeah.
Right. Minnesota
with their schedule as well.
Yes. Along with their schedule and with a wide open, 4 through 7 seeds in the NFC.
They had a playoff spot.
Yeah.
That was a realistic target for them, was a wild card spot this year.
So I think a lot of people feel for Kirk Cousins and what transpired there, because he is balling out, doing it in difficult circumstances. Even in this game, it's like I almost felt like he's just waiting. Like he's waiting for plays to uncover. He doesn't care that pressure's coming. He's going to make the throw anyway. And he did a great job. Schematically, I thought, what they're doing with Jordan Addison and kind of evolving his all-around game. They're throwing screens to him, and he was putting Jair Alexander in a blender a couple times. He was outstanding, Addison.
Addison looks really good. I mean,
he does.
There's
a couple passes he should have come down with as
that's
well.
That's the thing. So that the only flaw in his game at the moment has been like a little bit of what can be interpreted as lack of strength at the catch point, but might just be a few plays that, like, if you hit, A.J. Brown in the right way at the catch point, you're going to knock the ball out, right? It's just that when it happens to a guy who's 175 pounds, it's easy to go, well, I've seen 2 or 3 of those, therefore that's the size and strength showing up, right? Whereas it might actually just be he's had 2 or 3 plays where he's been, like, the hit has come at the wrong time. So there were 2 plays in this game where the ball was in his hands and a hit came and knocked it out, right? Now, the first one, it was an illegal hit, and so they get the penalty instead. And then the second one was that Cousins finds him in the end zone, fits it in between like 3 different players. Addison catches it, and then the hit comes in and knocks it out. Might be a thing, right? Might be Addison is a little bit weak at the catch point, and that's something he's work on. Or it might simply be he's had like 2 or 3 of those plays that were a bit unlucky.
The second one, it wasn't triple coverage, but because Cousins was kind of taking a hit, he couldn't put as much velocity on it. I mean, Addison got hit by 3 guys at the same time.
Yeah, but my point simply being, if A.J. Brown is Addison in that situation and the ball hits his hands the way it hit Addison's, you would expect A.J. Brown to score a touchdown and come up with the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas because it's Addison and he's 50 pounds lighter, the ball comes out. Well, not because. It's Addison. He's 50 pounds lighter than A.J. Brown, and the ball comes out, so you automatically assume the problem is a strength thing, whereas it might simply be the ball, like you hit the ball in the right way. And
what if it's Addison versus Forbes? Then what do you do? The thing when you watch Addison play, and I think the thing you liked around draft time to put Addison as your top wide receiver, the subtleties that he has just as a route runner, not just getting open, but he is QB friendly in the way he runs his routes. You know how we all grew up playing Madden and everything, and you see the play diagram. It's like this guy's going to run an out. And the out always has like this exact 90 degree, turn, right? But the reality is a lot of times the receiver has to work back. It's not really 90, it's, 80 or 75, right? You actually have to work back a little bit. Not like a true comeback, but you have to be working back toward the quarterback on a lot of routes. Digs are the same thing, in cuts and everything. I feel like Addison is just really QB friendly with a lot of those things. It's kind of the opposite of Mahomes was questioning Marquez Valdes-Scantling yesterday on a pass, and Quentin Johnston on a pass with the Chargers, where you just don't have that feel for shortening the pass, attacking the ball properly. I feel like Addison does all of those things very well. And now you see him, beating press against Jair Alexander, moving around to the slot and on the outside. And just really impressed with what Addison's done over these last couple weeks for the Vikings and showing that he could fill in for Justin Jefferson. That was when T. Higgins did that last year for Jamar Chase. You said, okay, that's a legit 1-2 punch there. And that's encouraging for the Vikings for when Justin Jefferson comes back, that Addison has that ability.
He's looked great. Yeah, he's looked fantastic the last couple of weeks. Remember last week he makes a bad play to start the game, costs Kirk Cousins an interception essentially, and then Cousins kept going back to him, And Addison showed why, because he's a great route runner. He's great after the catch. Literally the only question mark you have at this point is strength at the catch point, which may or may not be a thing. It might simply be he's been unfortunate with a couple of plays that have been knocked out. But that's it. Like, everything else he's good at.
All right, let's talk a little bit from the Packers angle, and I want to circle back to what the Vikings do, like what the Cousins injury means. Without spending too much time on it, we at least have to touch on that. From a Green Bay perspective, their offense is just in shambles. They look young. There's mistakes from multiple people. Not necessarily on the same play. It goes back to that, like, somebody screwing up every time. The longest gain that the Packers had was a busted RPO. Jordan Love pulls the ball. He's looking for a receiver to throw to, and everybody's blocking. And he ends up early in the game just throwing a heave to Jaden Reed, who catches it for 34 yards. The 34-yard busted RPO was the best play by the Packers offense yesterday. So having some problems there, right? It's either a drop or Love's missing a throw or there's miscommunications. The young offense just looks young.
Yeah, it is the same story, and I sound like a broken record because this has been my take for weeks now, but it's because it's not changing. They just keep making mistakes, and as you said, it's not the same people every time, but somebody is making a mistake on a regular basis, and they're not good enough to overcome that volume of mistakes. I mean, on this game, Wicks drops the ball at the 5-yard line, right? Could have probably a touchdown. Instead, it's an incomplete pass. I mean, Jaden Reed has the ball in his hands, and Josh Metellus rips it away and ends up being a turnover instead of being a completed catch. So, like, somebody is just making some form of error fairly regularly in this game. And for a quarterback like Jordan Love, I mean, even if he ends up becoming, I think, a very good quarterback, he's probably not going to be a particularly efficient quarterback. So you're always going to be working behind the 8 ball in terms of, like, I don't have that many plays to give away, right? If somebody else is making a mistake, I'm already making more than most people, right? I'm leaving a couple of plays on the table here. So if you're adding to that, and then you're adding to that, and then the offensive line is adding to that, now we just have way too many mistakes for this to be a functional, efficient offense. And that's literally been the story for this team all the way through the season. Is I don't think it's necessarily a terminal problem like going forward, but they need to clean those up. Like, they cannot survive playing or with the volume of errors that they have as a unit on the offensive side that they've had this season.
I wanted to highlight that interception by Josh Metellus. Great play. Great play. Fun design by Minnesota, too. They crowd the line of scrimmage, double A gap look. They're all up against the line, and they drop back into an inverted Tampa 2 with Metellus running the seam, and he makes that great play on the interception.
And this is exactly what we talked about heading into the game, right? Which is you don't know what this defense is going to be doing. Right. They are showing you looks that don't make any sense. I mean, in particular, with those 3 safeties that are lining up all over the place. And, that was a great play by him. Cameron Bynum's made some fantastic plays this season. Harrison Smith has made some great plays. Like, that trio is a problem for opposing offenses and opposing quarterbacks.
We were intrigued by that coming into the season, right? Minnesota's they lost guys like Eric Kendricks and some bigger name type of players, replacing them with guys they've invested in, with Cameron Bynum over the last couple of years that they've invested in, and Metellus, who they said, they're unheralded later round draft picks, and they're going to be our guys, and they're playing pretty well.
Like, Brian Flores, I think, is doing an amazing job with this group. And by the way, like, the personnel is still not great, and I think there's also room for it to get better. Like, rookie corner Mekhi Blackmon, I'm still pretty convinced is one of their best 3 corners and is not on the field yet.
He had a big
best
game
2, to be honest.
Yep.
Like, and yet because they're playing with this system that has it's sort of like base personnel in a bunch of areas, but then very not in other areas. Like, they're using 3 safeties rather than 3 corners. So Mekhi Blackmon's actually not getting on the field most of the time. But I'm not sure I can be convinced that he's a worse option than Caleb Evans or even Byron Murphy at this point. He should probably be one of their 2 starting corners. If they make that switch at some point in the season, like, the defense could get even better.
All right, real quick on Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. One Mike Florio suggested maybe a trade for a former baseball player.
Yeah.
Take a big swing before the trading deadline. That baseball player would be Kyler Murray, by the way, not me. Kyler Murray.
You would be not a good option for that.
Well, I've retired. I'm retired.
Oh, no, that's why.
Yes.
Got it.
But Kyler Murray is not, presumably. And so the suggestion from Mike, not like inside information, just, let's just throw this out there, that maybe, Kyler Murray is Minnesota. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, the guy that Jets fans wanted to trade for is Kirk Cousins because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles. We go from should the Vikings be punting on the rest of their season because they're 0-3, trade Kirk Cousins. Now they're 4-4, looking to maybe do damage in the playoffs. They lose Cousins. Jaron Hall's the backup right now as a rookie late-round pick from BYU. Should Minnesota consider a trading deadline with just Jacoby Brissett? Like, should they be considering something here at the deadline just to stay competitive?
Yeah, like there's going to be some fascinating conversations happening within that building now, today.
Yeah.
On exactly this, like what the hell do we do? Because Kirk Cousins was probably going to leave at the end of the season anyway. Like they for once had decided we're not extending his deal again. We're going to let him play out this final year of his contract, signaling presumably that they're going to move in a different direction. So consequently, he's not tied down, right? Like his injury is probably signaling the end of his Vikings career, although because he's been injured and it's a severe one at his age, I actually think in a funny way it increases the chances he goes back to Minnesota because I think it probably hurts whatever contract he can get this offseason at his age, given an Achilles, etc. So he's not going to get like a monster, blow you out of the water deal from New England or San Francisco or the Jets or whoever. I actually think the chance of him going back to Minnesota this year have gone up with that injury. But it means he's out of the picture. They don't really have a viable backup. Like Jaron Hall, the rookie, is the guy that came in once Cousins goes down. I don't think you want to be playing him for the rest of the year. Now, number one, I don't think he necessarily has a future there. Number two, I just doubt he's good enough for you to win games. I don't think
Jaron Hall's ready.
If you want to win games this year. So the question becomes, well, do we see a legitimate future quarterback available, i.e. Kyler Murray, right? Like you have to be debating, is Kyler Murray the guy we want as quarterback for the next 5 years?
I haven't even looked at the cap situation and the whole.
And that would be pretty rough.
I don't want to put too much credence to Mike Florio, dropping a Hail Mary on Twitter.
Right. But if you're contemplating something like that to save the season, it's not about saving the season. It's about hey, is Kyler Murray actually the quarterback for the next 5 years?
Future. Right, exactly.
Which is a wild thing to be deciding on Monday, October the 30th, midway through a season.
You have a day to figure it out.
Less maybe. Let somebody, guys, go away into that meeting room over there and come up with that answer in the next 3 hours, if you could. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So that's fairly wild. Alternatively, you're who's available right now that's just a better option than Jaron Hall for the next, 8 weeks or whatever. And that isn't the easiest thing in the world. There will be people, but midway through the season, you're not swimming in great quarterback options.
Teddy Bridgewater's in Detroit.
And then you have that the other existential concept, which we were talking about when Justin Jefferson went down. Do you even care about winning games this season anymore? Sure, it looked like actually you were well positioned to maybe go chase that wild card spot, but is this actually a gift in terms of giving you the option to stink for the rest of the year? Now you have an excuse. You can actually be terrible for the rest of the year and nobody will blame you for it because you just lost your quarterback to an Achilles. Is this a rare opportunity to sort of tank in the open and just go get as high a draft pick as you can for a good quarterback in the offseason?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more I think we need to break down on the whole Kirk Cousins, Vikings, their future, the short term for Minnesota. But as of right now, they're 4-4. Green Bay falls to 2-5, and it's looking rough.
Yeah, and that's another question, by the way, where this is probably one of those ones where your opinion might not even matter. This is an ownership thing, right?
True.
You need to present to the Wilfs. Option A,
Yeah.
we suck the rest of this year, but this is a really nice quarterback class, and we might actually have a shot at a really good one, which we don't ever get because we're too good. Option B, we try and win some games and maybe sneak into the wild card spot, and then Jacoby Brissett gets wrecked by 60 points against, Philly in the divisional round. Like, I would go for this one, but you as owner have different interests.
But the third option is, by the way, as we said earlier, Kirk Cousins playing the best football of his career, year 2 in Kevin O'Connell's system, and you have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson locked up. I mean, the best option for Minnesota might be like 2 more years of Kirk Cousins if he'll take it, and you might be more likely to get there now because of the injury.
Can you imagine if the Vikings end up coming out of this year just stuck to re-up with Kirk Cousins again? How amazing would that be? Like,
But I don't know if it's the worst
coming
move.
into this year, it's like they finally put a stop date on the Kirk Cousins thing. Whatever happens, we now know at least they're going in a different direction. And then he pops his Achilles, and then 2024,
But I don't know
guess
if that
who's
was
starter again?
I don't know if they were definitely going in a different direction at the end of this year either. Because they could have brought him back for another 2 or 3 years if they don't have the right draft pick and all that. So, all right, let's talk some rookie quarterbacks here. We got the Carolina Panthers get their first win, 15-13 over the Houston Texans. Is it the 08 Lions and which year the Browns? Who popped the champagne here for winless teams?
I don't
17
remember which
Browns?
year.
17 Browns and the 08 Lions popping that champagne.
The Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. So Panthers get their first win, 15-13. Bryce Young, probably with his best game as a pro.
Bryce Young.
Slightly bigger than baby steps in this
Slightly
one.
bigger than baby
Yeah.
steps. Does he outduel the number 2 overall pick?
Outdueled CJ Stroud.
Yeah. I thought both quarterbacks were actually reasonably solid in this game, but that's a bigger outlier for Bryce Young than it is for CJ Stroud, who's looked pretty solid all the way through the year. Bryce Young made some good plays in this game, and
you got to see some of his playmaking.
So
That's why I keep saying, like, if you watch the film, like, it's getting a little bit better every week.
baby steps.
Yeah, I'm trying to say it in different ways.
And I think there
has been improvement in Bryce Young on a weekly basis.
I think their confidence in him is growing a little bit as well. Like, I know they were, the reports were they're all in on Bryce Young. They love the guy, but like they weren't calling a game like that. They were calling a game like they had a guy they needed to protect and didn't really trust to do things. Whereas in this game, it's like 4th and goal, and they spread it out and empty, and then they motion a guy back into the backfield, but like they spread it out and say, in shotgun, Bryce Young, go find a receiver, and he couldn't fit the ball in, turnover on downs, but like multiple plays in this game, they set it up to basically say, Bryce Young, go make a play, and on a few occasions he did.
Yeah, he broke free from a sack, made a big pass down the field. I don't know if it was great ball location, but it gets caught. I mean, just the natural playmaking for Bryce Young, I thought, came out more in this game than it had for the previous
a lot of
7 weeks.
You got to see a lot of his ability improvising and making, like the play to set up that 4th and goal where they didn't get it was Jalen Petrie just runs right the hell over the running back. I forget which one it was trying to pick that up, but he actually picked it up well in terms of read it, got in front of the guy, squared him up, and then Petrie just ran him over, just right over the top like a speed bump. Bryce Young gets out of that, finds Adam Thielen, sets up that goal line stand. Later in the game as well, there's a holding call on Bradley Bozeman. It's now 1st and goal from the 15, which is not a great spot. Bryce Young gets most of it back, like the very next play, scrambling out of the pocket, finding Adam Thielen across the middle, I think, again. And then that series ends up in a touchdown. Like, he was able to dig himself out of some ugly situations in a way that hadn't been the case earlier in the year. And
one of Bryce Young's better throws gets dropped on a 33-yarder down the field after he scrambled out, hits DJ Chark in the hands. So it was much better from Bryce Young perspective.
Yep.
Low-scoring game, as we know, is 15-13. Carolina was up 12-7. The Texans come back. QB sneak by Stroud. Good sneak. Good solid sneak for the 1-yard touchdown. Texans went up 13-12. This was in the third quarter. They had a nice long drive. But they go for 2. Frankie Louvu drops off, knocks down the 2-point conversion. So we're sitting here at 13-12 for a while until the Panthers lead the fourth quarter comeback with Bryce Young. He had that fourth quarter comeback opportunity, gets Eddie Pinheiro in position for the game winner, which included a fun little Tavierre Thomas jumping off sides, back-to-back plays.
3 times. He did it on the one that went through as well.
He was the third one too, yeah. So that was, I mean, you talk about officials, right? So Thomas jumps off sides as the Panthers were in, like they were going to kick this
right,
field
he's
goal,
essentially, Carolina have put themselves in a position where, like, they're going to score. So there's no downside to jumping offside, try and time the snap to block it, right? Because if you're offside, okay, you just reset and do it again. You can essentially just keep doing it until you either get lucky or they kick the field goal anyway, and then it doesn't matter.
It felt like their way of icing him and just kind of messing with him.
I think it was just like there's no downside to this,
yeah,
right?
Try
like,
to jump it.
Yeah, it's win-win. If I somehow time it perfectly, I can block it, and that's the only way we can save the outcome of this game. And if I get it wrong, all I've done is make them reset it anyway, so it doesn't matter. How long has that been a penalty, by the way? Like so they called him after the second one. They gave him an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for deliberately jumping offside twice to try and block them. How long has that been a penalty?
That might be a couple. So it might be the one from a couple of years ago. Remember the Titans and Vrabel were doing things like that, where there's a point in the end of the game where it's 2nd and 1, and you're better off, and you're trying to. You can't allow a first down, and you give the offense the first down because you just, okay, now we've got one set of downs. We have to stop them or the game's over. You deliberately jump off sides. But I think there was that plus the punt deal when teams kept trying to jump off sides on punts to stop the clock or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I think it was something recent.
Then I found it funny that he jumped again for the third
because he jumps again, it becomes a dead ball foul. So he jumps a second time. The field goal goes through, but they blow the play dead. The play is supposed to be blown dead. So the second field goal didn't count, so they had to do it a third time.
And he jumped off
the
third one.
That's what's crazy about it is it wasn't a free play. So the first one gets blocked or was missed. The second one is good, but because it was the second offside in a row, it wasn't a free play. It was blown dead theoretically, even though we saw the ball go through the uprights. So the Panthers had to try it again, but it was a chip shot by that time.
Right.
And he jumped a third time, and by that time, what do you do? Like, you just kick him out of the league if you jump off sides 3 times in a row?
I mean, technically, it's probably a disqualification, isn't it?
We got to start cracking down on this.
Our second unsportsmanlike penalty. That's kicked out of the game.
I think our special teams graders, though, should be kind there and say he's just taking a shot. I don't think those are all.
Yeah, I mean, up until I knew that was an unsportsmanlike penalty, I was like, that's a smart thing to be doing.
Yeah.
Keep jumping off. There's no downside here. Did you see the play where they gave Tank Dell an end around and he hit like every move in the world in the space of about a second and a half? It was like a Zay Flowers play. He hit like all of the buttons on Madden at once and did this like spin, juke, like twirl thing at a different speed than other humans work at. It only got him like 8 yards or whatever, but it looked amazing when he did it.
Yeah, you always pull out the best plays in the analysis. So Panthers 15-13 win. By the way, Bryce Young was also sacked 6 times, 2 others that were negated. I mean, he was under heat. Jonathan Grenard, unbelievable game for the Houston Texans. Ike Ekwonu continues to struggle, third-year offensive tackle.
He's been rough this year.
He has been really rough in pass protection. I mean, even coming out of NC State, he was going to be better in the run game, we thought.
Yeah.
But you'd think he was going to progress a little bit more than he has from a pass pro standpoint. Panthers were pretty solid other than that in pass protection. But, yeah, Jonathan Grenard had a game for the Texans. Just wanted to highlight that. So Panthers moved to 1-6, Texans 3-4. And let's move, speaking of rookie quarterbacks, Tennessee Titans 28.
Oh, baby.
Atlanta Falcons 4-4. Should I say the Houston Oilers 1-0 here?
I can't believe there's controversy over like who should own that.
Me neither. It is the Titans. It is their history. The Houston Texans have 0 history as the Oilers. It is the Titans. The former Oilers. They were the Tennessee Oilers for 2 years. They're the Oilers. Look at that look. Will Levis, in his NFL first start, in his NFL debut, 19 of 29 for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns went to DeAndre Hopkins, who finishes with just 4 catches, but 3 scores for 128.
Just 4 catches.
Just 4 catches.
Yeah.
On the other side, Desmond Ridder benched.
Not for performance,
or
apparently.
injured. We needed a relief pitcher.
Arthur Smith claims it was not for performance. Having said that, Arthur Smith appears to just the things that he says bear no resemblance to reality. So it's difficult to determine if that's true or not. Either way, he wasn't playing for the second half of the game. Taylor Heineke was.
Desmond Ridder was sacked on 5 of 19 dropbacks. Maybe it was for safety purposes.
Protected from himself.
Finishes 8 of 12 for 71 yards. It was, when guys get sacked a ton, I try to go through those plays. There was 2 or 3 coverage sacks, a couple that the offensive line got wrecked, a couple that Ridder probably could have avoided. But
bad fumble, trying to step up.
Bad fumble. It was great. I mean, it was really a great play by Jeffrey Simmons reaching in to strip it. But yeah, turnovers again for Desmond Ridder. He's thrown the ball better in recent weeks. It's been a Sam Howell-ish situation where Ridder's thrown the ball better, but he's putting the ball on the turf, fumbles, and either way, Ridder didn't finish the game. Taylor Heineke did. Let's discuss Levis though.
Played quite well.
And
Taylor Heineke, by the way.
Yeah. Who's that? Oh, Heineke?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been calling for Heineke.
I mean, I've been saying it's likely to happen at some point this season, and it happened. And now, he played well enough that if it was for performance reasons and you happen to be lying to the media, you're going to be thinking about it this week. Like it was, sometimes you make those moves. It's like, we've got to make this change just to see. And then you see it and you're like, okay, that's not going to work either. Let's go back to the first plan. I mean, if you were thinking about it and this was the outcome, you're still thinking about it.
I mean, I think Heineke. Well, let's not talk about Levis. I think Heineke's going to give you he's going to give you a Heineke level of volatility. But I think just like Terry McLaurin had opportunities to make plays every single week with Taylor Heineke, I think your Drake Londons and Kyle Pitts are going to have opportunities to make plays with Taylor Heineke. You have to deal with he's going to throw the ball to the defense.
Right, but the weird thing about his sort of final season starting is that that part of his game kind of disappeared. It stopped being like Fitzpatrick type YOLO Heineke, and it was actually you're still throwing the ball to the defense, but you're no longer throwing the ball to our receivers as well. Like now you've just become a bad quarterback, and that's not good. So we have to get rid of you. But that
could be a deal. That could be something too.
Yeah, but if he can get back to that where he's just YOLOing it, and we've got some good and some bad, now we can have some fun because we got some awesome playmakers here.
To me, the story of Will Levis's game. Now listen, Marcus Mariota also had 4 touchdowns in his first start for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah,
I was impressed by Levis. I also think this was Nuke Hopkins in this game. More than anything. I mean, so look, I think I'll let you have your say in a second here. Levis played well. First touchdown, throws it up. I mean, Nuke's not open whatsoever. And if he was open, this ball was like 5 yards inside of where he would normally catch it, except he just decided to throw A.J. Terrell out of the way and went and caught it for a touchdown. The other one, a couple of the other ones were good. But look, Tennessee did a nice job with Will Levis. 15 out of 33 dropbacks were play action. Another 5 screens, 6 total screens. One had both. So 20 out of 33 dropbacks for Will Levis had either a play action or was a screen or both. And when you think about what young quarterbacks need, it's that type of breakdown. So it's like, all right, play action isn't a complete cheat code, but it opens things up. The screen, that's kind of like a mental break. Hey, let your playmakers do the work. And then you just have to play football for 10 to 15 plays, right? Go find the open receiver. And I thought Tennessee did a really nice job. Nuke Hopkins was outstanding. And then Will Levis did a really nice job taking chances. Like his first deep ball was ridiculous. It was broken up, but it was like ridiculous arm strength and accuracy to even get it there. Will Levis is at least, he's pushing the ball down the field in this game and letting Nuke Hopkins do his thing. And I think, to me, other than just the throw-for-throw stuff, I thought that was the best thing about Will Levis, was giving his, Heineke and his playmakers, giving them chances to make plays down the field. I love that.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Explain why you thought the Panthers should have gotten DeAndre Hopkins, and maybe they still should.
I've been making the point since the offseason that Carolina should trade for DeAndre Hopkins because DeAndre Hopkins can help a rookie quarterback in a way that was demonstrated, could not have been demonstrated better than this game, right? This game is effectively, in a nutshell, why I've been making the case that Carolina should have signed him in the offseason and should trade for him now, because he scored 3 touchdowns, and in all 3 of those plays were an example of how he can help a rookie quarterback, and each one was different. It was fascinating. It was literally like a textbook, step-by-step example of what I'm talking about. So number 1 is the play you've been talking about, which is, hey, Nuke's one-on-one on the outside. I don't need to read anything further now. I'm just going to put the ball in the air. And it doesn't really matter where I put it, right? And if you watch where that ball lands, it's not put in a particularly good place. No. It's inside towards where the cornerback would have been. It's kind of a bad throw, right? But it's Nuke Hopkins. So he just grabs A.J. Terrell, tosses him out of the way, and goes and catches a touchdown, right? And Terrell's fairly legitimately going, what the hell, officials? But they don't tend to call those plays. So Will Levis ends up starting his game with a great touchdown, right? And now we're all like, wow, look at that bomb from Levis. He's on a tear. And I'm sure Levis internally is feeling great. I put a ball up to my number 1 guy. He goes, makes a play. Everybody's a winner, right? Second play, it's a decent read. He finds Hopkins, and the location is iffy, right? It's behind him. But Hopkins just plucks it out of the sky behind him and then makes the play anyway and scores a touchdown. You're like, so now he can invalidate, iffy ball location. Another win. And then the third one was Nuke Hopkins, a double move.
Double move,
right.
Yeah.
So you get number 1, just physically goes and gets a ball that he has no business getting. Number 2, he can invalidate iffy throw location. And then number 3, he's still a savvy enough player that he can get open. You just don't really think he can because you're not paying that much attention. You're only focusing on the number 1 of this, the physical stuff. But he then hits a double move. It's a wide the hell open play. Levis can go get him. He's open
61-yard touchdown.
For a touchdown. Yeah. So 3 touchdowns, 3 different plays, and all 3 of them were how he can help a young quarterback look way better than he has any business looking if that was, insert random-ass crappy receiver there instead. So a huge portion of this game, for Levis's point of view, was DeAndre Hopkins making him look good. But then the 4th touchdown,
beautiful,
great play. Just this incredible touch throw to kind of loft it into a space that Nick Westbrook-Akina can just run under and go get himself a touchdown. So that was a fantastic play by Will Levis. He had other plays as well, like Chigakonkwo drops a stone-cold, wide-open first-down play-action deal that would have been a big addition to his yardage as well. So I thought Levis looked very good. I also thought he got made look a lot better by DeAndre Hopkins. And that's as impressive a debut as you're going to get. And now, people that were, this is classic, 1 game has happened, so victory laps have to be taken. So the people that were taking victory laps who hated Levis are now getting dunked on by the people that love Levis and are now taking victory laps. It's a victory lap about face.
Yeah, and so let's just people are going to hear what they want to hear too, Sam. So I want to make sure that we're clear on this. We were both impressed by Will Levis's football playing yesterday in his NFL debut.
Yes.
I was also very impressed by DeAndre Hopkins' football playing, which I think made Will Levis's football stats look a little better than his football playing would indicate. Now, on the other hand, I know there was a drop by Chigakonkwo down the field, and that last pass, Levis to Westbrook-Akina, unbelievable, man. That was one of the throws of the week. And I think that's where, in this one game, Will Levis, the big arm that people had talked about throughout college and everything, if nothing else, like he created a couple big play opportunities that maybe haven't been there for the Titans so far this year. That's what I saw, was Will Levis's willingness to throw the ball down the field and ability to get the ball down the field, even on some of the incompletions. So that was really good, man. So the people that did like Will Levis, you were one of them around draft time. I thought it's not victory lap time. It's just, okay, these are some of the traits that you saw there in his ability to throw the ball down the field that was not really a part of Kentucky's offense last year.
Right.
was a part of Tennessee's offense in this game, and you saw the results.
And it was. I mean, this was a game plan that was quite similar to 2021 Kentucky's offense.
Yes.
You know, when they were running with Liam Cohn as offensive coordinator or head coach, which was he? Offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator.
It looked a lot more like that. Did I have Levis 2? Was he my second or third quarterback?
Probably second.
I think it was second, right?
Look at you. I mean, Bryce Young, Will Levis. No, did you have Levis? No, you probably had him fourth.
I think
still.
I had Levis. No, I didn't. Definitely didn't have him fourth. I had Stroud fourth, so that's not the best.
Yeah, you were between Levis and Richardson.
I think it was Levis 2.
Nobody really cares about your rankings, though.
No, I know. But yeah, like this looked like the version of Levis that you thought was there. Now it's one game, so who the hell knows? But that was an impressive. It is kind of funny that Levis already has double the number of passing touchdowns of Ryan Tannehill this season.
Yeah, it is. Now, the other thing going for him was in Tennessee. He's in Nashville. So you get that bump. You get that Tennessee bump.
I also think we need to start flagging when teams are wearing the throwbacks. Like Tennessee in the Oilers uniform was going to be difficult for them to lose. Seattle we'll get to later. In the Seattle throwbacks, I would never pick against those ever. Miami were in their throwbacks, right? Now they were the Patriots.
Eagles, Kelly Green, Sunday Night Football.
Kelly Green's never going to lose. I mean, every one of these throwbacks I need to know because I'm not picking against them.
The Patriots are going to lose because they were bad with their throwbacks back in the day.
Yeah,
so you got to know.
Okay.
The throwbacks matter.
Also, their throwbacks aren't that good. Like, that's the difference. Kelly Green throwbacks, amazing. Patriots throwbacks, whatever.
Oh, Pat Patriot?
I mean, it might be better than the current, but it's still not good.
It's kind of fun. You know what is good?
What's
AG1. Really good. The daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. We drink it literally every day here. Sam, you were sick last week. You chugged your AG1. How you feeling now?
I mean, not sick. I was in a stalemate with an illness. You know, we had battled to an entrenched position where neither one of us was winning or losing. And I was like, you know what's going to tip this in my favor? He said, think of the AG1. So I went in there with the scoop, in with the water, mixed it all up, and now I'm good.
So look at that. Drink AG1 every single morning, or when you're not feeling great. Makes you feel great. And I like to kick it off with caffeine in the morning, and it's a great way to start the day because all great athletes, like myself, former Division II preseason All-American, we have one thing in common. We take care of our bodies, and a huge part of that starts with optimizing whole body health. A lot of them drink AG1. That's why I'm a huge fan. With every daily serving, I'm setting myself up for success with 75 high-quality ingredients that give me the key daily nutrients to support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. It's this micro habit that delivers macro benefits and helps just about everybody take great care of their health every single day. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. Pretty good, if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with high-quality sourced ingredients. It's a win-win for all of us here on the PFF NFL podcast. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/PFF. That's drinkag1.com/PFF. Check it out right now. All right, so the Falcons, they fall to 4-4. They're still tied atop the NFC South with the New Orleans Saints. Saints moved to 4-4 with a 38-27 win over the Indianapolis Colts. And this is why I hate trying to predict football games. For 5 straight weeks or 6 straight weeks of trying to predict that the Saints offense is going to break out. They got all the playmakers, Sam. I said the same thing over and over again. I finally said I quit. I'm out. I'm out on the Saints. And then they do it. They break out. And Rashid Shaheed does his thing again. And Alvin Kamara is making plays again like it's 2018. And the Saints offense looking a lot better in this game against the Colts.
Kamara was spectacular. Rashid Shaheed was spectacular. He was really good. Like, they tried to take a catch away from him, and then they eventually were like, no, let's keep
that was
that
one of the plays of the game we got to talk about. So the Saints throw for 354 total. 444 of those came from Taysom Hill. They're up a score, and Taysom Hill just chucks it into double coverage. Now, his receiver is Rashid Shaheed.
Yes.
Who's, 5 to 10 plays a week, the best receiver in the NFL. So you'd think he might come down with it. It looked at first like it was going to be an interception, but Shaheed had his hands on it. So it was this contested possession where Shaheed got the 44-yard reception there, and it went from, hey, the Saints may have turned it over in a one-score game late, and instead became, no, the Saints are setting up what eventually became a touchdown to go up 2 scores. But yeah, Shaheed was unbelievable. And for the second game this year, when Shaheed got the one-on-one, Derek Carr threw it up to him for another bomb where he whooped poor Tony Brown. Tony Brown starting outside for the Colts, who had a rough one. But it was like the game's on the line. This is what's tough to figure out about Derek Carr. There are games like this where he goes, hey, when I see this one-on-one and I know this guy can't run with Rashid Shaheed, I'm going to give him a chance to make a play. That's how they won a game earlier in the year, I think, against Tennessee. That's how they did it in this game against the Colts. Shaheed whoops Tony Brown right off the line. Carr hits him, seals the deal for the Saints. So they have that level of playmaker. Michael Thomas with a couple of big plays in there. I know he was dealing with illness this week. When the Saints are firing, this offense can be really, really good, and they were in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talked about how Derek Carr gets in this weird zone where he's just sort of somebody described it as, the way sometimes when you create like AI version of something, and it's just not quite right. Like the sort of general components are right, but it doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
Like that's how he plays quarterback. But in this game, what he was doing actually connected with what he was reading and the defense, and it was sort of a product of actually playing quarterback as opposed to just these are the things that you're supposed to do as a quarterback. So the first big play to Rashid Shaheed was a perfect example of that. It wasn't just like an aimless heave deep down the field because now it's time to throw a deep ball. It was a good read, right? It was a quarters beater, split 2 deep defensive backs, like the 2 corners, right? The guy that's covering him and the guy from the backside trying to fill the gap the safety leads. Carr reads it, hits his guy perfectly in stride, like great play. So you got the good version of Derek Carr where he does actually read the defense, allow that to take him where he's supposed to go with the football, as opposed to sort of predetermines where he wants to go. And when that happens, he can be a really high-level quarterback. We know that. We've seen that throughout his NFL career. And they've got the receivers to make it happen. Like Chris Olave, reasonably quiet, but like a decent game. And then Shaheed making all those plays and Kamara making insane plays after the catch.
The Kamara plays felt like, in previous weeks we had talked about how he was coming into the game 21st in the NFL in catches despite missing 3 games, but only about 5.5 yards a catch. In previous weeks, it felt like they were just like quick check downs and, some schemed up plays. But in this game, it felt like mismatch plays, right? It was just, I'm better than the linebackers, and it's a mismatch. And so it fit the flow of the offense for the Saints. When Carr hit him on that little angle route that turned into a touchdown, that's not necessarily, hey, I'm going to look downfield because I'm supposed to, but I'm checking down too early, and Kamara doesn't really have much room to do anything. This was like, hey, this is a mismatch. We're going to exploit it. That's good offense by the Saints, which is we're looking downfield. We're going to give our receivers chances to make plays. When it's open, we're going to hit them. We're going to exploit those mismatches, and then we're going to exploit mismatches when we have them underneath with Kamara. That is the good flow by this Saints offense, which we certainly didn't see the previous week on the Thursday night game against Jacksonville. Now, that could be a big part of the reason, right? We talked earlier about Jacksonville's defense. Makes life really difficult for offenses in the pass game. Colts struggle. They're young on the outside at corner, and the Colts have found themselves strangely in shootouts lately.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this should not be their game. They hung tough. They were up 17-7 in this one. DeForest Buckner had a strip sack early on. They had a nice 4th and 1 to get Michael Pittman in the flat. They go for it, to get on the board early. But yeah, I don't think the Colts and Gardner Minshew should really be trying to hang in shootouts every single week.
Not ideally, no. Particularly not. I mean, Minshew got banged up early in this game. It was like 3rd and 1 down at the goal line, and he came out. I can't remember what the play was, like a busted play, and he comes out of it limping. So I don't know how healthy Minshew was for the majority of this game. But yeah, you don't, like, he's this classic quarterback where he's capable of doing some really good things, but in an ideal world, you don't want to turn the thing over to him and have him carry the entire offense.
So yeah, the Saints Minshew, he didn't have as many. Let me go back to that. He didn't have as many turnover-worthy plays. We highlighted that a bunch on the preview show, but still a bad interception late there, and then a ridiculous touchdown to Ogletree to try to get back within a score late, but not enough for the Colts. You pointed that out to me at that touchdown that he threw on the run. Mm-hmm. That was insane.
Yeah,
that it actually got through. Mm-hmm. From a Saints perspective here, they're sitting here at 4-4 with, I thought, just lost their schedule. Just lost it. The NFL Jesus site. Remember, GSIS. Once you click out of there, you're in trouble.
You don't want to use PFF.com?
The Jesus site has, I use PFF.com. Absolutely, for everything. But a couple disappointing losses by the Saints. Texans, wrecked by the Bucs. Losing to the Packers after being up 17-0 is going to look pretty bad in hindsight for the Saints. But they're still positioned because everybody in the NFC South is positioned to make a move because the schedule's not great. Coming up now, the Saints have the Bears, a suddenly Kirk Cousins-less Vikings team.
Yeah.
And then they got the Falcons, the team that they're battling in, for first place in Atlanta in a few weeks. Saints looked like the favorite in this division. They have the Giants on the schedule still, Panthers again, Bucks again, Falcons twice, Rams. Saints should be able to go on a run here if they can play more consistent, especially the way this offense played in this game.
With the Vikings presumably dropping out of playoff contention from this point on, you should start to prepare yourself for the idea that two of these teams are going to make the postseason from this division. Somebody's going to win the division, obviously, but the second or the last wild card spot is probably coming out of this division.
The Rams are still in the mix too?
Maybe.
Just saying. A lot of teams.
It's like the Rams.
Hashtag in the mix.
Right. The Rams are a possibility. Who knows what the Vikings will do at quarterback. Maybe they can stay in the mix. And Washington, maybe. But, other than that.
Yeah, it's ugly. All right, let's wrap up the 1 o'clock games. Dallas Cowboys 43, Los Angeles Rams 20. It was tight early on, and then the Cowboys started to run away with it. Pick six. It was 7-7 at one point.
Yeah. At one point, it was quite tight.
Sorry.
It was start of the game.
It was 7-3 at one point.
Yeah. The game started 0-0, and then quite quickly it became not close.
Yeah, it wasn't close by the end of the first. Matthew Stafford, pick six to Deron Bland. The throw was so far off on that, it looked like a miscommunication. Cooper Kupp runs an out. Stafford leaves it way behind. Bland with an easy pick six. Dude continues to make plays. And then this was like your classic Dallas Cowboys beatdown, right? You got a blocked punt for a safety. And then on top of that, Dak Prescott playing outstanding. He just wasn't missing a ton of throws. His first touchdown, beautiful seam route to Jake Ferguson. And then CeeDee Lamb just took over. Lamb was unstoppable in this game. And you have those games, right? 12 catches for 158, 2 scores. Brandon Cooks finds the end zone late to get up to 43. But when Dak and CeeDee Lamb are cooking and you have – Dak had made one of those passes to Ferguson earlier in the year, and I think he dropped it, or maybe one of the other tight ends dropped it. When those guys are catching passes – this is when Dallas's offense looks really good. It was a pretty clean game all the way across for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was a great catch by Jake Ferguson. It was a nice pass, but the catch was spectacular. The only thing that was really working well for the Rams early is Aaron Donald in the first quarter was causing all kinds of problems. He had 3 pressures in the game, and all 3 of them came in the first quarter. Early in the game, Donald looked like he was going to be a problem and potentially a game changer for the Rams, and then Dallas managed to get that under control and stop that being a problem. The touchdown to Jake Ferguson was really nice. The pick six was obviously, I agree, it was a weird play. I wrote it down, was that a miscommunication at the time? There's no evidence that it was, but it was such a bad throw that you almost assume that it has to be.
Even if Kupp runs a little, it's like a hitch or an out. Even if he runs a little hitch, Bland is probably.
That's the thing. It doesn't make any sense for it to be a miscommunication because it was never good. Even if he runs a different route, it wasn't good. It's just it was so far off that you generally don't see a pass from a guy as good as Stafford that bad without some kind of explanation for it. But anyway, that was a big turning point. And then like that sequence that really completely put the game out of control was Micah Parsons gets a really big sack on third down, right? And then they block the punt for a safety and then immediately like return the free kick most of the way to set them up, and then touchdown. Now it's 26-3, and you're like, okay, this is gone.
I don't know how do the Cowboys have these games where they get like, does Stats and Info have this? One of those, here's the only game in NFL history where the team had a blocked punt and a pick six and a 50-yard return. Like, it feels like they always come in bunches for the Cowboys. Last year was it Sunday Night Football against the Colts. They dropped 33 in like a quarter. I mean, just how do they have these games where it is just three-phase domination? And it's usually against bad teams, right? It's usually against bad teams. But it is three-phase. It is Micah Parsons being unblockable. It is defense causing turnovers and finding the end zone and special teams, and Dak is looking good. Like, the whole thing always seems to come together. That's what Dallas needs to bottle up for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's a consequence of kind of, almost deliberately targeting sort of volatile, high-leverage playmakers on all sides of the ball. Like, they have a good special teams unit, so that's going to help. But returns are, by definition, you don't get them very often. They're big plays here and there with a guy like Keontae Turpin, and then they just don't happen because you don't get that opportunity. The defense, like Michael Parsons, is amazing, but guys like Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs, when he's out there, these are boom or bust type of players. And so when it hits, it looks great. And then even the offense is kind of like that. Like, it can cook every now and again, but doesn't always. So it's like a unit. It's like a roster that's set up to be kind of boom or bust. And you get either games like this where in like a few minute turn they're able to put up like 21 points and blow the game out of the water, or you get games like the 49ers where like just nothing functions and we look terrible.
It was also one of those games. So Matthew Stafford was banged up throughout the game. I mean, he's at the point of his career, he's dealt with so many, I don't want to say minor injuries, because he had that whole back injury with Detroit that just randomly ended his season. Didn't feel bad until they said your season's over. Last year got banged up. I mean, he's at the point where he's dealt with so many injuries. Hand was already hurting, hits his thumb, because he's just taking so many hits, man, and he's tough and trying to make those throws in a tight pocket. So his thumb is wrecked. I mean, I was wincing watching his thumb hit the helmet on the throw. And then on top of that, it didn't matter in the game, but they ran the Rams ran a Philly special to throw the ball to Stafford on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
After he's got a busted thumb, and he had to make a diving catch and then reach forward, to get within 3 scores on the. It's like, I don't know. It's just so funny to me, and also sad at the same time. Like, it's a great 2-point call that you had on your call sheet, but at some point, like, listen, really quick, for every coach that says, I can't go for it on 4th down. Hey, the numbers don't know when my left guard's getting whooped. They don't know. They don't know it. They can't figure it out. Yet, you, the coach, don't know that your franchise quarterback in a 3-score game has a busted thumb. Maybe you should cross the Philly special off for the 2-point conversion, save it for a couple weeks from now. That you don't know that? You should probably know that. I just got fired up. Sorry.
I mean, maybe he was just going with the analytics. The analytics said Philly special.
Yeah. Oh, so I don't know. The analytics didn't know that Stafford had a busted thumb.
Analytics didn't know that.
Analytics did it.
Analytics fault. So that's a second explanation that I hadn't considered. Now remember, like as you said, he's hurt to the point where Brett Rippon comes into this game, right? He leaves the game because his thumb is wrecked.
On top of every time Matthew Stafford plays football, I don't know if he's got multiple busted ribs and back injuries. That's on top of the hand, because he's always just grimacing and in pain.
So there are now 2 possible explanations for that play call, the first of which I hadn't considered until you brought it up there. Number 1, McVay is simply a slave to the analytics, and the analytics can't tell you. They didn't know that Stafford had a busted thumb, so they said, call Philly special, it'll work, and it did, right? Number 2, Sean McVay had a baby like a week ago. The man might simply be sleep deprived and is therefore calling Philly special for his quarterback with a busted hand.
What does sleep deprivation look like for the coach who already gets to the office at 3?
Yeah. I don't know, but it can't be good.
There's no way McVay's losing more sleep because the times when the baby keeps waking up in the middle of the night, the dude's already at the office anyway.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I mean, he's got to sleep at some point. And if the baby isn't sleeping at that time, he's not sleeping either anymore.
So, yeah, it's all adding up now. McVay did say the lack of sleep is real.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably already working off 4.5 hours, so he's down to like 2.
Right. So there, you just didn't,
You go with the Kramer sleeping strategy, every 20 minutes. You sleep 20 minutes every hour. Just mix in some naps.
So the brain is clouded, and he forgot, Yeah, I know I just saw the guy wreck his thumb, but this is the play right here.
It's just hilarious to me. And McVay has made that point. Like, you don't know. You don't know what my left guard's doing in that game.
Yeah. That is a pretty big black eye for the, hey, look, the numbers are not on top of things during a game, right? We're able to take into account all these little weird things that you're not thinking about. Well, that was a pretty big one, and you still dialed up the play.
Anyway, I'm not trying to pick on Sean. It's just I noticed it. It was a funny thing. Dominant win by Dallas. They have the Phillies. Oh, my gosh. The Eagles next week.
Yeah.
How did that come out? They're not playing. The Phillies got eliminated.
That's why they're not playing.
That's why they're not playing. Yeah, that's it. Dallas 5-2. Rams fall to 3-5. All right, to the 4 o'clock game, Sam. Baltimore Ravens 31, Arizona Cardinals 24. Cardinals cover. Another bad week for the picks here.
They did go.
Because of the Cardinals backdoor covering like they do. Another game that was, pretty close for a while, and then the better team pulled away, the Ravens. But they got up 24-7, and then 31-15, and then Cardinals kept clawing back and scoring points.
Just what they do.
To cover.
Yeah, strange game where both quarterbacks, I think, decided to ignore what they'd been doing previously. Like Lamar Jackson had been playing like MVP, as good as any quarterback in the NFL, absolutely cooking. He didn't have a good game in this one. And then Josh Dobbs had been playing pretty good. And crucially, hadn't really been making too many really bad decisions. And then in this game made multiple awful decisions, ridiculous turnovers. I mean, first interception at 7-7, tie game, 1 score each. He just overshoots Michael Wilson by a mile and throws it right to the deep corner, who was nowhere near the play. Should have been an easy completion, ends up being just a terrible turnover. Has a bad fumble on a strip sack from Michael Pierce, giant nose tackle coming up the middle. It's
Our guy Ross Tucker was talking Pierce up the entire game.
Yeah. That backed them up a mile, took them out of field goal range in addition to the fumble. And then the other interception is a ridiculous toss in a double coverage where both DBs were in a better position to catch that than whoever the hell he was targeting with it in the first place. The underneath guy ends up catching it. All that did was stop the second guy from catching it. Just a terrible decision that he hasn't been making generally this season. So, yeah, strange game where both quarterbacks were way off where their baseline has been this year.
Another strange one was Odell Beckham finishing with 0 catches on 4 official targets, but there were really 7 targets. 3 of them ended up in penalties, defensive pass interference. So Odell Beckham targets, and I'm not saying he earned all of these necessarily, ended up in gains of 26, 40, and 22 on pass interference penalties. And of course, we like to make this a story. He was visibly frustrated after the game, or during the game, which players tend to do when they don't, make the catches or do the thing that they're paid to do. It doesn't mean he had a bad game or anything. He was drawing some of these penalties, but Odell Beckham looking a little frustrated with no catches on the official stat line.
He also took a flying hip check at one point.
Yeah, he was hurting.
He was out what they call it it was an abdominal contusion or something. Oh. It was a contusion to something that wasn't no normal place you get a contusion.
I thought you were going to say hip pointer.
No, because it wasn't his hip. It was Buda Baker's hip launching itself at Odell Beckham. It was a weird play where it was an overthrown play down the side, a pass down the sideline intended for OBJ. Baker's coming across in the safety position and cleans him out. And initially you're thinking, well, that's hit on a defenseless receiver, etc. But Baker was like going for the ball. So the ball sort of flying past both of them. Baker goes up to try and intercept the pass or at least break it up, and then realizes like in the air, it's going beyond me. I can't catch it anymore. But then also, I'm airborne and have zero control of where I'm landing at this point. So just sort of tries to turn, either brace for contact himself or like minimize what he's about to hit. And it turns out what he's about to hit is Odell Beckham coming down the sideline in a forlorn attempt to go chase the ball, and just like literally flying hip checks him and cleans him out. And that knocks him out of the game for a while. He comes back later and still doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so just something to keep an it on there. I mean, the Ravens still have all these pieces. Last week they hit, man. Last week was against the Lions where everything was working great, and it was like, all right, this was what the Ravens offense is capable. Lamar Jackson was wheeling and dealing and doing it within structure, outside of structure. As you said earlier, it just wasn't there this game. Really nice touchdown. I mean, sidearm flash points or whatever you want to call it for the Mark Andrews touchdown. That was pretty sweet. But like when Lamar did try to scramble around a couple times, he got bottled up for a sack. I mean, there was just some of those big plays that weren't there from last week. From an Arizona perspective, here's what's happening now. They're now 1-7 and in line for the number 1 overall pick, what people thought was going to happen earlier in the year. So just because they cover and they're feisty doesn't mean they're winning games. They're 1-7 and in line for the number 1 overall pick at the moment over the Carolina Panthers, a.k.a. the Bears. But also Kyler Murray is cleared to play football.
Yeah.
So he's been cleared. He obviously didn't play in this game. He's only had 5 practices this year and in this new offense. I think we're probably going to see Kyler Murray next week, but it comes back to another fascinating decision here for the Cardinals. With the number 1 pick on the line, they also get to kind of evaluate Kyler Murray in their new system. And, maybe they say, hey, he's going to be our guy. Plus, we'd love to add a Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever it might be. So looks like Kyler might be back as soon as next week.
Yeah, I mean, they need to figure out what Kyler Murray is in this offense, in this team, because the people running the show now are not the people that committed to Kyler Murray twice. So they're in a strange spot where normally you would be like, well, let's keep him on the bench as long as possible because we want that number 1 overall pick and we want our choice of Caleb Williams or Drake May or whatever. But first of all, they need to figure out if they even want one of those quarterbacks or if they're happy with the guy they have, because the people making that call now are not the people that were there before, and you probably don't want to make that decision based off like old evidence, right? Pre-injury Kyler Murray running a different offense is probably not giving you the best indication of whether that's true or not.
All right, man. As we said, Ravens first place. They're 6-2 in the AFC North.
Finally, a big Trey McBride game, which
yeah.
I've been waiting for kind of a while. 14 targets, which was almost double anybody else in the team. 10 catches, 95 yards, a touchdown, a full-on rugby maul touchdown. They get him down to like the 2-yard line. He's fighting, struggling, and then it literally like stalls out. And then just a whole bunch of people get added to the pile and push it like 2 yards over for a touchdown. Could not believe the officials didn't blow it up for stopping forward progress. Like that would have been, the ref in rugby would have given them a warning that the maul's been stopped, right? That's once, use it.
Who else got really mad about forward progress being called? Somebody was moving backwards by about 2 yards, but not for that long, and then he broke free. And
this one, it wasn't
not
like
this game, but
this one, it was the duration, like the length of time that was stopped for was amazing that they didn't blow it up for forward progress being stopped. Like I said, if the maul had been stopped for that length of time in rugby, the ref would be giving a warning that like now you got to use the ball, and yet they pile in and push him over the line for a touchdown.
All right, let's go to Seattle Seahawks in their 90s uniforms. 24-20 win over the Cleveland Browns. Another wild game, man. Back and forth. It looked like the Browns had this game in hand, but a late P.J. Walker interception with about 2 minutes left in the game put Seattle in position to at least tie it, right? It was 2017 at the time. Interception with about 2 minutes left, coming right out of the 2-minute warning. Seattle's already in field goal range, but it's Geno Smith into the flat to Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie, for a 9-yard touchdown with 44 seconds left. Seattle goes up 24-20. That ends up becoming the game winner. And Seattle moves to 5-2. At the same time, the game we'll talk about in a minute here, 49ers lose their third straight. So Seattle now sitting atop the NFC West.
Love those throwback jerseys.
Yeah, they're nice.
They're so nice.
Very nice.
Even like the sideline apparel is pretty sweet as well. Pete Carroll with the hoodie. Hoodie's nice too. I need to be a Seahawks fan so I can get one of those. Those are awesome.
Can we get Homage back on here as a sponsor?
Yeah.
And we'll just we should just buy all the throwback stuff.
I love
just wear throwbacks all the time.
I would buy those Seattle throwback gear. Like those are so nice. Yeah, so the other element to this was you sort of sketch the end. I'm going to start from the back rather than the front. But at one point, right towards the end, the Browns are up. They have an 83% win probability, according to whichever model they were using on the TV. They need 3 yards, essentially, before the 2-minute warning, and the game's basically over. And they pass for it. Ball ends up getting batted, then picked off. And it's batted by a blitzing Jamal Adams. It hits him in the head, effectively. PJ just beans it off Jamal Adams' head, bounces up and gets picked off. That gives the Seahawks that drive to then take the lead and put the Browns in a hole that they couldn't climb out of. But that play, 83% win probability, switches all the way to Seattle win this game. Browns never get a shot, really, to pull it back.
Yeah. Sorry, it was 2:04 left, 3rd and 3.
Yeah. So they need 3 yards before the 2-minute warning. They get the 3 yards
on the 40 on their own 41.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets tipped up and intercepted.
Yeah.
Man. Tipped up to like the other side of the field.
Yeah, I mean, he fired a bullet right into Jamal Adams' head.
Yeah.
And it flies right up.
It is one of the hardest things that we grade is not the batted pass, but like this has come up a lot of times the last few weeks when the quarterback knowingly throws it into the unblocked rusher. So like Brock Purdy's interception yesterday, which was a great pick and maybe not that bad of a throw, but this one where it's like I have to throw the ball behind this unblocked rusher. Like that's where you oftentimes have to throw the ball, but you throw the ball right off of him. Or or you're trying to throw it through him and the guy tips it up, and who knows. The difference between the ball falling incomplete and being picked is very much lucky. In this case, obviously, a huge play for Seattle. I was wrong. I didn't put him in field goal range, but Julian Love catches it right around the 40, 45.
Yeah, I mean, it set them up for a chance to go and put a score on the board and win the game. But as I say, like before that play, Cleveland were 83% chance to win the game. All they needed was 3 yards, effectively. Yeah. And instead of, not only did they not get the 3 yards, which would have been bad, but it was a turnover based off a ball getting bounced up, and it's just a wild play to swing the outcome.
The Browns just keep playing these wild back and forth games. I mean, Geno Smith with an awesome touchdown early on, scrambling out to Tyler Lockett. Also had a interception by Martin Emerson, where Emerson did a great. Geno was up and down in this game. Throws the pick to Martin Emerson, which was a great play by Emerson, but
it was an interesting play.
There was some passes to we can talk about that in a second. Sorry, a couple passes to DK Metcalf that Geno Smith just completely missed as well.
Yeah,
talk Emerson interception though.
So it was a really nice play by Emerson. Pete Carroll was livid because he wanted a penalty.
What did he want on that play?
He wanted a penalty for them. I can't remember if it was jumping offside or simply lining up offside, but like he wanted it to be a free play essentially. Now, every time there's a flag on a play and it's a turnover, fans are like, he knew he had a free play. Geno was just taking a shot because he knew it was a free play. Geno has come out and said he did not think he had a free play. It was just a bad.
There was no reason to think. I'm watching actually, this is not the play. I'm going to find the play.
Anyway, he's come out and said he did not think he had a free play. It was bad.
I was trying to figure out what Carroll was screaming about because clearly – a lot of time when there's an interception, usually it's like, pass interference or something. Emerson was just an awesome play and off coverage where he jumped it. He didn't touch Metcalf.
No.
Does he think, Garrett's Garrett might be lined up offsides.
Right. That's what Carroll wanted.
Yeah, I got you. But when somebody lines up offside, if people who was defending, you were talking some of the 12s?
There were people out there that were like, he thought he had a free play. No. Clearly.
The only time a quarterback thinks he has a free play is when a player jumps off sides.
Yes.
You're never going to know if a guy lined up off sides because you're not checking their alignment and you don't have the angle.
Right.
So you're not going to know you have a free play if he lines up off sides. It's also not smart to treat it like a free play until you actually kind of feel the flag come out.
The only time,
if it's
honestly,
right off the snap.
the only time they think they have a free play, honestly, is when they do a hard count.
Yeah.
It causes a guy
You're
to jump.
anticipating it.
Right. It causes a guy to jump, and you snap the ball, and then you just assume you probably got him. Even if, like, you know what I mean? Like, even if maybe he actually snuck back and you don't. But that, I think, is the only time quarterbacks are treating it like the assumption is here, this is a free play.
So, yeah, it was a back-and-forth game. Seattle was up 17-7. But then the Browns come back, score a touchdown to make it 17-14. They tie it up at 17, a couple field goals. They end up taking the lead in the third quarter. There's no scoring in the fourth quarter. Every time Seattle's trying to make a comeback, you have Maurice Hurst making an incredible interception.
Defensive tackle, Maurice Hurst.
Defensive tackle.
Making a crazy
not
interception.
his dad, who was a corner.
And not an interception of defensive linemen, when they get interception, it tends to be at the line of scrimmage on like a tip pass, right? He dropped into coverage and broke in front of the ball and picked it off.
Outstanding play by Maurice Hurst. And then, to me, this was just kind of classic Seahawks. I don't think Geno Smith over the last few weeks has not played the cleanest games from start to finish, but I am always so impressed by how he bounces back. And again, it might just be because in the back of my head, I'm just like, he's the guy that was a backup for 8 years. And maybe he's you always wonder if he's just still
but also is
he that good? But he is. When he'll make some bad plays in games. He'll put the ball in harm's way. But he is nails at coming back from those things.
And his good plays are insane.
Yes.
Like the beautiful passes he has are crazy good. The Browns early in the game in particular were killing Seattle with screens. David Njoku had a really nice one where it looked like it might have been dead at the line of scrimmage. He sort of squeezes through a gap and then has a big run after the catch opportunity. There was another play that was bizarre where I think they screwed David Njoku out of a turnover.
That play was really weird. Yeah.
It was one of those wild plays. We talked about this, was it last week or the week before, where like three different things could potentially, it was the Drake London thing, right? The weird catch where Drake London's trying to score and is sort of flipping upside down, reaching out for the end zone. Like based off how you determine the ball landing, you can essentially call it three different things. It could be a touchdown, it could be a turnover, or it could be down at the 3-inch line. This was similar where your options were like incomplete pass, turnover, or actually turnover, and it's your ball again from there. And I think the correct answer was actually the one that they definitely didn't go for, which was like ball to the DB, and then Njoku diving somehow knocks the ball out without touching the defender and recovers it himself. And it would have been their ball plus whatever, 20 yards.
They just gave him the completion, right?
The
interception.
Yes.
Yeah. That was nuts.
But I think the correct call was actually that was an intercepted pass, which then Njoku diving knocked out and then recovered himself.
Right.
Because if he touches the player, it's interception down,
right? Play
dead, right? But if he touches just the ball and knocks it out, he's forced to fumble without ending the play. And then he recovered the fumble, so it would be his ball. That's what I think happened.
But they were trying to say it wasn't a forced fumble, that he actually made contact somewhere along the way.
Right. Well, so that what they're saying is if he touches a player and you can't, it's the play's dead there and it can't force an incompletion because it's already, So
this is tough to follow with just like he did this, he did that, but Njoku taking the ball from Reek Woolen should have been a fumble recovery?
Yes. Should have been a fumble that he forced and recovered himself.
After the interception.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was the original call.
Right. But the other alternative is they can be like the other option on the table, like the Drake London thing, is what they could have said is he forced an incompletion, which would have been even more insane. But anyway,
I think would have been very NFL that there's no such thing as possession the whole way through.
But I think like that Drake London review that they did, they basically went, this is too crazy an outcome for us to actually call. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
I genuinely think they looked at that and went, this is too nuts. You cannot say that he forced a fumble on this play and recovered himself, because it's too crazy. But I genuinely think that's what the correct outcome should have been, is that instead of having a turnover, they should have got the ball back. Yeah. And Njoku got shafted out of one of the plays of the season.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Look, credit Seattle, man. They were stopped on 7 straight third downs at one point. We know the Browns' defense has been really tough this year, but Seattle hung tough. They pull out the win at home. They covered the 3.5. And they win 24-20, sitting atop the NFC South at 5-2.
Never a doubt with the throwbacks.
Never a doubt. Cincinnati Bengals 31, San Francisco 49ers 17. The Niners have now lost 3 straight since that dominant game against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Bengals move to 5-3, and certainly looked like vintage Joe Burrow and the Bengals even more and more. Coming off the bye, we had seen hints of it in recent weeks. This was kind of full go. Joe Burrow, Bengals offense, they're back.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, crazy game from him. This was the
stat line. You want the stat line?
Go on.
28 of 32 for 283, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Did get sacked 3 times, but 28 for 32 passing for Joe Burrow.
Right, got sacked 3 times, but also had like 40-something rushing yards and broke out of a bunch of crazy plays and made, insane things happen when he should have been dead. There was one of those like Eli Manning type, helmet catch plays where it looks like he's absolutely in the grasp and wrapped up and fights out of it. And okay, he doesn't find like a bomb down the field with a helmet catch, but finds like an open receiver to hit. That's as good as Joe Burrow has played, certainly this season and for a while. He looked pretty spectacular, and the rest of that offense looked good as well. And then Brock Purdy had a ton of turnover-worthy plays again. Now, he didn't play that badly. It's not like he played terribly previously where nothing was good and he had turnover-worthy plays. This one, he actually played okay other than the turnover-worthy plays, but there were quite a number of them again.
Yeah, odd game for the Niners. The Niners did move the ball at various points. Purdy's going to ends up with over 11 yards per attempt in this one. But yeah, there was bad pick over the middle of the field, 4 total turnover-worthy plays, 2 touchdowns, or 2 actual interceptions for Purdy. A little chucking and ducking at times there. The Niners are just a little out of sync, and the Bengals, it was vintage Bengals. Vintage meaning like 2021 and 22 for multiple reasons. Good right? Vintage. It was Burrow looking like the guy, spreading it around to their various group of playmakers, but also who are the defensive stars? I'm repeating myself, I think, from 2 weeks ago, the game just before the bye. Who are the stars? Mike Hilton, DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson had an ankle injury, comes back, remains one of the best pass rushers in the NFL this year. But those are the guys, Reader in the run game and also pushing the pocket here. But those are the guys, Mike Hilton as this do-it-all slot corner and Hendrickson as a pass rusher. Those were the guys that had been stars for this Bengals defense, and they were the stars in this game, slowing down this 49ers offense.
Yeah, and the thing is, the 49ers actually had a bunch of plays break their way as well and still didn't matter. Just before halftime, Irv Smith fumbles away a tight end screen down by the goal line. The Bengals were up 14-10, I think, at that point, so that could have been 21-10 heading into the halftime. Huge swing in San Francisco's direction. They made some big plays and still weren't able to overcome it, in part because Brock Purdy kept putting the ball in harm's way.
Yeah, so that's the big one, right? It's 17-10. And so go back to last year. Brock Purdy takes over, and they start cooking, scoring a ton of points. And there was a lot of blowouts, and it was like, hey, Purdy's looking great. They have Christian McCaffrey. And my question was always, how's Purdy going to handle a little adversity? How's he going to handle making a comeback? And last year, he did it a couple times. It was like, hey, I think it was against the Rams. There's a couple times in comeback situations where he did it.
Do you want a stat, though?
Yes.
Kyle Shanahan is now 0-37 when trailing by 8 or more points in the fourth quarter.
Oh, I have seen that one, yeah.
That's insane.
Now, again, I need a baseline, 8 or more. It's kind of, that's why.
I mean, it can't
That's
be
fair.
Whatever the baseline is, it's higher than 0.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jimmy Garoppolo's got a lot of fourth quarter comebacks, but those are within a score.
Yeah.
Those
but
are within 8.
Yeah. 8 is not a lot in the fourth quarter.
No, I get it.
mean, we've seen enough of those each week to know that is not an insurmountable task. To be 0-37 for a team as good as the 49ers have been for most of that time feels insane.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, from like a Brock Purdy specific standpoint, I had a couple questions about his ability last year and into early this year to come back in a must-pass situation. We have Monday Night Football against the Vikings, 2 fourth quarter interceptions, and now 17-10 on your own 20. And this is just a bad misread, man. Was it Logan Wilson? Yeah. I mean, he just threw it right to him. I mean, great job by Wilson, passing off the deep route, and spacing looks a little off by the Niners. But down 7, like, go be Joe Montana, Brock. You're supposed to be Joe Montana. Go be Joe Montana. Make the comeback.
In front of Joe. Joe was in the building.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
That's too bad. So, yeah, like Purdy throws it into harm's way. Logan Wilson picks it off. Bengals come back next play. Touchdown. They're up 24-10 at the time. And that was pretty much it. That was what really sealed the deal. So that's what I think the Niners, I'm not saying Purdy can never make a comeback or anything, but that's what the Niners are going to want to avoid. And, getting up early like they have so much over the last couple of years. When they're not doing that over the last 2 weeks, it puts a lot more pressure on that pass game.
There were some wild plays in this, though, from Purdy. Like, he averaged 11.8 yards per attempt in the game, which is a ludicrous number. 10 is extremely high. Joe Burrow averaged 8.8, and that's a very high number.
Let me just say something really quick. What's wrong with Brock Purdy? The things are going the other way. Now, 4 turnover-worthy plays for him. 2 of them were after the 2-minute warning. Game was over. But like a multiple turnover-worthy play games for Brock Purdy, those have happened. It happened in Week 1 against the Steelers. He fumbled twice, recovered one of them. It happened on Thursday Night Football against the Giants. Remember his first drive, his first 2 passes should have been picked, and they weren't. And he came away. He had 0 interceptions in the stat column for weeks. And so that's why you look at turnover-worthy plays and not just interceptions. And you don't say, this guy's taking great care of the ball when he's got a ton of turnover-worthy plays. You say, hey, there's a little bit of luck involved here. Don't keep playing like that. And now the last couple of weeks, he's got interceptions because the defense is catching him. That's what's happening. And he's still making good Brock Purdy plays.
Yeah.
Right? The last 2 games, what have we seen from Brock Purdy? The same stuff we've seen for the majority of the season. Anticipation throws, a few plays outside of structure, some wide open stuff within structure, some plays that are thrown to the defense. The difference now, the defense is making the plays.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time.
Oversimplified, but that's what I'm seeing.
So he had some just crazy plays in this game, and they went the outcome of them was wildly different. So whichever interception it was, the one to Jermaine Pratt, like, that's a spectacular play by Pratt. It's a weird play by the 49ers and Purdy. I think it was a busted shovel, right? It was one of those inside shovels that the Bengals seem to have covered, so Purdy didn't even attempt it. Most of the time you see, even when those plays are stuffed, they at least take the shot, and they fire the shovel, and maybe the guy gets tackled immediately or even broken up. For some reason, Purdy pulled this down and then, followed the sweep out to the flat, and then try to dump it over the linebacker to the guy that would have been a touchdown if he'd cleared him, except there was an illegal man downfield because I don't think the play should have ever got that far in the first place. So the whole thing was kind of weird.
I would call that, I think, an unlucky interception.
That's the thing. So that was a strange play where it's the kind of play that Purdy's been making, and he gets a little bit unlucky, and Pratt makes a spectacular catch. He then had, later in the game, a full replica of the Brett Favre 2009 NFC Championship interception that ended the game, where he's gets out of some chaos in the pocket, he's rolling right into open field, and then lofts a duck into the middle of the field, way back across his body, that's up in the air for a week. And in Favre's case, it was picked off by Tracy Porter, and that's basically the game. Somehow, Purdy actually completes it for a first down and then did the same thing the next play. You're like, how is that? Where is the defense?
Yeah.
These are like the picture, like textbook illustration of do not do this ever.
That's actually encouraging to me because I think what makes Mahomes' ability to do that is his geometric awareness and everything, right? The geometry, like I was thinking this watching Mahomes, even in one of his not so good games yesterday, like the geometry that Mahomes understands the field and knows when to throw back. The fact that Purdy actually could complete some of those, I'm actually more encouraged. I'm just going to say, sometimes I'm more encouraged by Brock Purdy, when there's some bad plays in there. I mean, like, there was a lot of good stuff in this game for Purdy, too. Just, bad at the wrong time, again, in the fourth quarter. That does mean something,
Yeah.
But credit the Bengals, man. They look like the Super Bowl caliber team. Now, this is also the second straight week the Niners defense got torched. They got torched on Monday Night Football by Cousins and the Vikings. So this goes both ways. Did they run into Kirk Cousins playing the best ball of his career and Joe Burrow, who is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL? I know we forget this because he's not there statistically and he's been playing hurt all year. Joe Burrow's a top 2 to 3 quarterback in the NFL. So did the Niners run into that, or are they showing massive signs of weakness on the back end after looking like they were really, really good this year? But that's been the last 2 weeks. Niners have been smoked.
I mean, I think they have some signs of weakness, but they also, like Nick Bosa had 9 pressures, like a pass rush win rate of almost 25%, and they resulted in 1 sack. And, one of those plays, he has Joe Burrow in the grasp, and Burrow gets out of it and makes something spectacular happen. Like, they had some plays there, and they just weren't able to finish them, and Burrow playing basically as good as he's ever played made them suffer for that. On the other side, Trey Hendrickson continues to have a spectacular season. He had a ton of pressure, 8 pressures, 27% pass rush win rate, pass rushing grade of over 90, and also like he got a really unlucky injury where his foot got stepped on as he's trying to rush and it rolls the ankle. So he ends up coming back in the game and made some big plays after that. But just he's having an amazing season and nobody will notice or care because he'll be like 6th or 7th in a list of edge rusher defensive player of the year candidates. But in like a random ass crappy year, he could be the defensive player of the year the way he's playing.
No, it's absolutely true. Hendrickson's balling out so far this season. Bengals move to 4-3, Niners fall to 5-3, and now second place in the NFC West. All right, 2 more games.
They're now a wild card team.
Yes, they are. Oh, we got a mighty roar from Eli in the booth. Appreciate it. For the Bengals, not for us. Broncos 24, Chiefs 9. Upset of the week here. Broncos move to 3-5. Chiefs fall to 6-2. A lot of firsts in this game. Patrick Mahomes, first loss on the road.
In the division.
Yeah. Right, I know. I was going to finish it. First loss on the road. First time Denver had won in 17 tries.
Yep.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs.
2015.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning was the quarterback the last time the Broncos had beaten the Chiefs.
Yeah. Another one, the Broncos, I think I always view this through the lens of the underdog because you expect the Chiefs to win. They're a touchdown favorite. In the Broncos, I think at the end of the day, I don't think this is it's not like a pattern that you strive for, but it seems like the teams that can keep Mahomes off the field in the way to do that, it's like when you run the ball, if you just get 3 or 4 yards, that's what Denver did. That's what the Colts did last year. On top of, the Chiefs always seem to have these games where they just want to play horribly in all phases.
Yeah.
Muffing punts, dropping passes, fumbling passes, and Mahomes turning it over. Like the Chiefs did everything wrong. I'm not saying the Broncos don't deserve credit at all, but self-inflicted wounds by the Chiefs. Mahomes' best throw of the day, 4th and 2. Sky Moore drops it in the end zone.
Drops a touchdown.
Mahomes drops a touchdown on 4th and 2. Mahomes has a terrible interception and bad fumble. Marquez Valdes-Scantling fumbles, and they also muff a punt.
Yeah. So that was the thing. You kept going through this game. You're like, okay, this is about as bad as it's possible to have been from a Kansas City perspective, and yet Denver's still in sight, And you're thinking at some point Mahomes and the Chiefs will spark to life, and it only takes 1 touchdown. They're right back in this, and you're still kind of expecting them to pull that comeback. And if Sky Moore catches that touchdown, maybe it still happens. That would have brought them to a score, right? Within a score. Or at least that was one of the scores that they needed and would have given them a shot.
They would have been within a score, yeah.
Yeah, with time left on the clock. So, but when that's done, turnover, that's the game, basically. But yeah, like the first half, right? Denver had 3 turnovers, had 2 red zone stops, and had like a special teams field flipping play go their direction, and we're still only up 14-9. Like,
well, the Chiefs' defense, man. The Chiefs' defense, like the score says they gave up 24 points, but in part because of the muff punt. But like the Chiefs' defense kept making stops.
Right.
Russell Wilson took multiple sacks to knock the Broncos out of field goal range. Plus, the Broncos gifted the Chiefs, or the Chiefs' defense earned, a 3-point attempt just before the half.
Yeah.
With a strip sack.
So that's my point. You're looking at this and you're saying everything has gone their way, and they're still only 5 points in the lead. Like at some point, something is going to go Kansas City's way, and they'll get back in this. And it just didn't. Like they never stopped making mistakes that put them in a deeper and deeper hole.
Where I do want to give the Broncos a ton of credit was their defense, though. It wasn't all just self-inflicted wounds by the Chiefs. Certainly the Sky Moore drop changes things a little bit, but this was one of those games that appears every now and then where Mahomes gets to the top of his drop and he's just not throwing on time very often.
Yeah.
And so the Broncos were taking away first reads. I thought they did a really nice job for as wide open as Travis Kelce has felt over the middle of the field the last couple weeks. The Broncos did a really nice job taking Kelce away. Was it the Taylor Swift factor? I don't know. Maybe they were doing a lot of analytics on wit and without Taylor Swift.
Analytics.
Right? There's a lot of analytics going on.
It's also worth pointing out that Mahomes apparently had the flu.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's going to sound like we're Chiefs apologists, but they turned the ball over 900 times. Mahomes had a flu game, which did not turn out like Jordan's flu game.
He's
got broken bones on his hand.
Well, one of the differences, I mean, one thing that stood in Jordan's favor, right, with his flu game, is he got to play in the nice, warm inside. Whereas Mahomes is out there in snow. It had been snowing in Denver with his flu. Like at one point they cut to him on the sideline. You know when people just look sick? Yeah. They're like no color, drained, sallow, like bags under their eyes. Mahomes is sitting there on the sideline after like a couple of these mistakes already. Like that dude looks like crap right now. Like I don't know how much the flu game affected him, but I do know that this was an uncharacteristically bad game from Mahomes where he made a bunch of mistakes that he typically doesn't make.
You should have called me, man. My flu game was night 1 of the draft this year. Night 1 of the draft.
I
could barely even talk at noon, but I brought it till 2 in the morning. 2 in the morning, we were going live. We were going nuts.
What happened between you not being able to talk and you being, having the game of your life?
Got a little steroid injection.
There you go. I wonder if that's open to Patrick Mahomes in a world of PED testing. And
we don't get tested here, right?
No.
I mean, they gave me some.
I've certainly never been tested.
Listen, Doc, I got to be live on the air tonight talking about the NFL draft. I could barely even stand up. What you got?
Right. I'm just saying I don't think that that's something Mahomes can do is, hey, I'm feeling pretty rough today. Can you give me a hit of the roids? I don't think that's an option.
What do you think he was doing? Forget it.
Anyway.
I'm just saying halftime of the Jags game in the playoffs last year when he went from can't walk to let's lead a Super Bowl.
I think that's painkilling as opposed to steroids. I gotcha. Anyway, my point being, I have no idea how much that affected him. It could have been 0%, 100%, anything in between. But it is, I think, at least worth mentioning that Patrick Mahomes apparently had the flu in crappy weather.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, the Chiefs' offense was bad and made an absolute litany of mistakes, and they lost.
I want to highlight the Broncos' defense, though, because Jaquan McMillan really doing a nice job at slot corner this year for the Broncos. He had the pick. The Broncos did a really nice job taking away first reads, and they also, they played him twice in 3 weeks. Held him to 19 points a couple weeks ago, and now holding them to 9. A Broncos defense that gave up 70 to the Dolphins and looked historically bad. And I said, look, they can't be that bad. They're a better team. I at least got that one thing right, that they'd be better over these last few weeks. But they had that strategy where we're going to kind of half rush, half spy Mahomes. They have a nice athletic player like a Nick Bonito who's really fast and can kind of play that spy role and track Mahomes down and not give him the out-of-structure plays. I mean, again, maybe it's a prayer, not a strategy, but if you could take away the first read for the Chiefs and then also somehow make Mahomes' pocket movements, just slow them down a little bit. Just block the rushing lanes. If you can execute those two things, which is a prayer because you have to be good to do it. You have to stop the first read and also keep him in the pocket. But the Broncos did a really nice job of those two things more often than not. And that was, they executed extremely well to slow down this Chiefs offense.
They did, yeah. The 3 sacks that he took was a season high this season. It's not actually a particularly large outlier number in Mahomes' career. I know he has this, not just a reputation, but he doesn't take sacks very often, but he does tend to have them in bunches where there's a bunch of games with 3 or 4 sacks in them. But there was one in particular, the Baron Browning strip sack thing before the half, that felt like a play normal Mahomes doesn't take.
Right.
That's the type of sack that he doesn't take in a regular game. So whether it was flu, whether it was defense, forced, that was a difference between Mahomes in this game and Mahomes in a normal game that was tipping things in the direction of Denver. And Baron Browning, pretty much immediately, in fact, after I questioned whether he was pass rushing Travis Fulgham, he's bounced back.
He's back now.
Yeah.
Now he's great and well. On the other side, weird game for Russell Wilson. Only 19 official attempts, 12 of 19 for 114, including 3 touchdowns. Beautiful last touchdown, lofted up in the end zone. But he was also sacked 6 times, like I said, including suboptimal times. 3rd and long, just kind of waiting it out. Should have been throwing the ball away if possible to save field goal range, and also rushed 8 times, Wilson. But yeah, I think the grinded out running game. Like there was a point where the Chiefs had 3 plays in the third quarter. That was the difference. I mean, there was like a 18 or 19 minute stretch of game time where the Chiefs barely had the ball. So like all those things add up. Broncos defense playing well, Chiefs mistakes, and Broncos win it, man, 24-9.
George Karlaftis had a pretty good game, and he's taken a step forward this year.
He really has.
He's still not great, but he is one of those classic high motor, always working type of players, and now he's winning just a bit by himself, right? And those
more
two
than
things,
just with power. Which is important.
But like last year, he literally, I don't know how many of his plays last season were like clean wins that didn't require clean up pressure or pursuit or like anything else. It was just you beating a blocker, getting pressure. But honestly, I feel like you could count them on one hand. I haven't gone through. He had 41 pressures, and at this point, I would be surprised if more than 5 of them were like clean, decisive wins against a blocker. This season, he had 56 pressures. I was looking at somebody else's numbers, but same thing. I would be surprised if more than 10% of those were actual decisive, solid pass rushes. This year, he's got some of those plays as well, and he still has the hustle, clean up, pursuit type plays. So, he's making more of an impact because of that.
All right, last thing on this game. Flu game or not, in 8 games this season, the Chiefs have scored 20 or fewer points in half of them.
Yeah.
4 times. 20 in opening night, 17 against the Jags, 19 against the Broncos, and 9 against the Broncos. There's been 3 or 4 games where the offense has looked like we expect from the Chiefs. They didn't have any lulls last year, right? It's a similar supporting cast, minus Juju Smith-Schuster, similar supporting cast, something to keep an eye on. The Chiefs' offense, the inconsistency at receiver. I don't know if they're going to be a player at the deadline because they have a lot of players. Nobody that's like Sky Moore's not super dependable yet, right? Rashee Rice is, but he even dropped one over the middle as well. Like all those things have added up for the Chiefs.
Rashee Rice, I think, is becoming their number 1 wide receiver, but is still young, is still working his way into it. Had that drop, which is not ideal. Sky Moore, I cannot believe how bad he is in the NFL. I'm honestly amazed. I mean, I tweeted last night. Somebody pulled up a tweet that I had at draft time that was like, Sky Moore. I'd be very surprised if Sky Moore wasn't at least a good NFL player, and now he goes to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's a steal of a pick, whatever. Someone pulls that up to try and dunk. I just quote tweeted with, "I am very surprised." I genuinely cannot believe how bad he is right now in the league. Like, I thought at the very minimum he would be a solid, dependable slot receiver that would move the chains and consistently get open. He's not even that. He brings nothing, literally nothing to this offense.
Wow.
Except like he's taking up snaps that other people could use better. I'm honestly staggered by how bad he's been.
I wonder if the Chiefs, do they cross-train their receivers too much? Because like the way they were using Sky Moore last year was like, all right, we're up a score or two late. He's getting all of our jet sweeps and screen stuff, which is not necessarily how I would use Sky Moore. This year, they're turning Rashee Rice, who I think could be a contested catch monster. He's becoming a high yak guy. Now, he's good at that too. They've identified that. But I wonder if the Chiefs are cross-training all of their receivers, which helps their offense, right? X lines up at Z, and we move guys around and everything. But I wonder if they're losing out by not playing to guys' strengths maybe too much. I don't know.
I just think
thinking out loud here as I'm hearing it.
It feels
we
like
have to talk Sunday Night Football though.
It feels like they've just been searching around for something that he can do well and haven't found it yet.
That's also possible.
And I'm absolutely amazed by how bad he's been for them. And then on the other side, you've got Courtland Sutton looking much more like the Courtland Sutton from before he got his injury. Like he goes and mosses a guy down the sideline. Jerry Jeudy is making contested catches deep down the field. Like the Broncos receivers actually showed up in this game in a way that they haven't always for them.
I mean, if the Broncos weren't so embarrassingly bad on defense earlier in the year, they're sitting here at 3-5, and they've played a few football games that look like they should. Russell Wilson still has incredible stats this year, but there's still something missing there. There's a chance, though, the Broncos become second half feisty, though.
Second half feisty.
All right, let's talk Sunday Night Football. We have negative 1 minute to finish this thing.
Yeah.
I got a meeting in 29 minutes. We got to go.
Okay.
Los Angeles Chargers 30, Chicago Bears 13. Tyson Bagent handed his first loss as a starter in the NFL. Chargers cover by a lot. They moved to 3-4. Justin Herbert finishes 31 of 40 for 298, 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Game opens up with a Bagent bomb.
Yeah. Chris just started chuckling. Look at this guy. Yeah. D2.
They kind of screwed him on that play as well.
Mooney. And Mooney was never touched down. Yeah.
Why did they didn't even blow the whistle until like after everyone had kind of stopped playing anyway?
Terry's like, we didn't even know where the whistle came from.
Because they replayed it, and a whistle did come in, but it was like really late after. Like the whistle came when the player that we don't mention had hold of him. Yep. Right? Not like before that when everybody kind of was like, is the play over? What's going on here? Bizarre play where at minimum they got hosed out of quite a lot of yards after the catch, and at worst they got screwed out of a touchdown.
They did. And so they didn't get on the board there. They got stopped. I think it was sack, knocking them out of field goal range on that drive. Mm-hmm. And then Chargers get on the board with a 39-yard screen pass to Eckler.
Yeah.
And I was, half watching. When I said screen pass, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was a screen. I saw him run through the defense. That's why.
I see.
That play is what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Chargers got up 17-0. Bears tried to get back into it 17-7 just before the half. But the Chargers really came back just before the half, scored another touchdown, get up 24-7. And that was the rest is history.
Semi Fajoku.
Yeah, Fajoku in there. Mm-hmm. Stealing some Quentin Johnston snaps.
Yep. But we did start to see some Quentin Johnston plays.
Yeah, he was dynamic after the catch.
5 catches, 50 yards, 4 first downs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously huge for the Chargers. We always talk about receivers. I mean, all players developing at different rates. Jordan Addison, who I was raving about earlier in the nuances to his game, I don't think Quentin Johnston has that, but Chris was pointing out the usual college offense-y type stuff where you're only lined up on one side and you have to learn how to run routes properly and everything. I mean, Quentin Johnston was always going to kind of struggle with some of those things, but if you play to his strengths, can create after the catch, can maybe get behind the defense a few times. It's going to be important here for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of knew that passively in my brain, but it wasn't until Chris said it on the broadcast last night that I was like, oh, yeah, he really did only play like left wide receiver the entire time.
But so did DK Metcalf, right?
Yeah.
Like guys have overcome this before.
Right. I'm not saying
guys
that's a crippling thing.
Like Corey Coleman never overcame, not just the sightedness, but the,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's a crippling flaw or anything, but it hadn't really registered with me until he pointed it out that, he really did only line up in the one spot the entire time for TCU. And even then, it's not like he ran the most diverse route tree in the world. He probably does have quite a lot to learn relative to some of these other guys.
So Chargers moved to 3-4 with this win. I mean, whatever. They should be more competitive. Chargers. They're just the Chargers.
The best Joey Bosa game in a while.
Yeah.
He made an impact. Now, he was working against some not great offensive linemen. That'll help. But that's Joey Bosa has been pretty anonymous this season, but that was as impactful as he's been.
Yeah, they need him. They need him a lot. Same thing with the player. Had an interception, making plays. We were wondering about him in the preview show.
Mm-hmm.
Where the heck is he? The Tyson Bagent talk. It's a lot of talk.
Yeah?
Impressed for a D2 player.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's shown he could be a backup. I think he's shown he runs an offense. He does all the things you describe of a backup, right?
I mean, he also could have a future starting, but it's like getting there is a problem. Like, he's making too many mistakes at the moment, which you would expect from, any rookie, let alone a rookie D2 guy. But it's like, what is his pathway to work through that to be given the chance to start? It's probably not going to happen, right? Either Fields comes back in the next couple of weeks and he doesn't get the chance, or simply the Bears are not going to give him the runway to make that happen. Like, what is his, let's say the pathway to him being good is like a Josh Allen 2-year development step-by-step process.
Yeah, nobody's going out of their way.
Right. Like, nobody's going to commit to him
up
for that length of time to see that come to fruition, if indeed it ever does happen. So you'll never find out. Like, his only shot of that happening is to stick on the roster as a primary backup for long enough that he gets another shot in, 2 years' time, and he's been able to achieve that from the bench, hopefully, in which case he might have a shot. But he has impressed for, given where he's coming from.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I don't think the Bears are going to choose Bagent over Justin Fields. The only decision is what Chris and Tirico broke into in the fourth quarter, which was the debate about do the Bears draft somebody versus choosing Justin Fields.
Right.
Is it Fields plus 2 elite players? That debate will happen at the end of the year for the Bears. They're 2-6 right now. No longer picking number 1 overall because the Cardinals have that spot, as we said earlier on the show.
Where are they? 2-6 could also be their draft position. Where are they in the draft?
Oh, they're 2-6 record. They're probably 2-3.
They are.
Panthers definitely have 2.
2 and 3.
Yeah. So it could be, those are fun balance sheet questions. Justin Fields plus Marvin Harrison and Olu Fashanu.
I think unless Fields improves markedly in the second half of the season, they're taking a quarterback.
Drake May, Marvin Harrison. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison. Could all happen.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Anyone else have anything on this game? I don't. We have Monday Night Football tonight, though. Lions and Raiders. Dude,
Raiders.
We should get paid extra for this Week 8, 16-game slate. It's a grind, man. It's a grind. Luckily, they're giving us an hour of sleep next week.
Next week. Great.
Yeah, next
Perfect.
week. For the Germany game.
For the Germany game. Yeah, an hour of sleep to be able to work all day Sunday.
That's what you need. Anyway, we appreciate everybody for joining us on an early Monday morning. Enjoy the Monday Night Football, and you'll be back again breaking that all down tomorrow with Brad, talking trade deadline, Kirk Cousins, all sorts of fun stuff for tomorrow's show. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. I'll be back on Wednesday, potentially. See how it goes. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you again tomorrow.